being involved in industry and everything. It doesn't work. And it's about time Ghana realizes that it's not going to work for government to be involved in setting up companies and all those. Government should be contained with policies, and then private sector should be involved in setting up industries and everything. It works that way, and therefore you can attract more investments to come to the country, and it creates more employment. VRA and others are all government establishments. Let's give it out and divest to private sector, and then we inject money in there. And get the right people to do it. Greatco and others and all are all for private sector. Let's give them the money, get the qualified people, divest government from it, and let them do it. Other than that, electricity company is in a situation where we don't know, but that also must be divested and give it to private sector. Why are we still holding it when we don't have the money?
We recall that somewhere 2015, when Ghanaians were calling for reduction in utility tariffs, particularly electricity, the then President Mahama, currently the flag bearer of the NDC, said the cost of the production of electricity was so high that there was no way the government could reduce electricity tariff. The MPP government that today the NDC criticizes took steps to negotiate a major tariff reduction. Households enjoyed between 17 to 20% reduction. Corporates enjoyed reduction up to 25%. The mining companies benefited, and the records are there. That upon assumption of office, the very thing we spoke about in opposition, which our friends in government then said it was a political talk. We came in and we announced this major tariff reduction. So yes, it is true that Ghanaians are complaining of electricity tariffs. Cost of living is high. But what we want to emphasize is that it was worse under NDC, and if they were in power, given their posture in government at the time, the situation would have been worse than it is. So, comparatively, this is not a party to be trusted. From its flag bearer to all its operatives, they were the same old stock.
Is it true that you are injecting $35 million just to transporting the Ameriplan from Western region to the Ashanti region?
It is not true. Because the cost of the entire project is not even up to $35 million. But then clearly, I mean, we can understand the NDC. This whole thing about bringing a Mary, as it was then called, to Kumasi for power stability and, you know, addressing voltage issues. I don't know the problem the NDC has with this particular project, because, I mean, since we announced that we are coming to commission this project, there's been this hue and cry, and clearly you do not know where the issues are from. For example, they even talk about we renaming it and all of those things. I mean, if you look at the precedents, it is quite clear that just like we have in other places, we have one thermal power plant. I mean, we look at the name of the place and then we also look at the sequence. So if we name this as Kumasi 1 thermal power plant, it is just in sync with precedent.
Well, the energy or the power politics continues while you and I continue to sleep in darkness. The fundamental concern of the people is that we have stable power supply, so you don't have to endure the heat, the mosquitoes, and all the discomfort that comes with Dumso. But in the midst of all this, this is an issue that we would have a conversation on this morning. Good morning from our studios here at Adesawe in Accra. Welcome to The Key Point. On this program, we discuss the most topical issues of the week with well-informed panelists that have the Ghanaian people at heart and in mind. Now, we're live on 3FM 92.7, also on DSTV channel 279, on Facebook at 3FM and also 927, and TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and also on X as well. This week, President Kufuor commissioned the phase 1 of the Kumasi 1 thermal power plant formerly the Ameri Power Plant, with a call on the private sector to take advantage of government's investment in the power sector in the region to promote industrialization, and as you're seeing on the screen there, and economic growth. But there are fundamental questions that the NDC and other persons within the energy sector raised about, for instance, this renaming of the power plant and the cost of the relocation, describing it as unrealistic and costly. Now, there's some $35 million that has been mentioned as being spent on the relocation of the plant from Takoradi to Kumasi. The Energy Ministry has rebuffed that, says that is not true. The NDC is standing by that particular claim. We would be finding out exactly where the source of that cost is coming from, and then also whether this relocation really, if there were any other alternatives to it, and also be engaging some persons who have an understanding of how this situation is playing out. Also, the Electricity Company of Ghana, the governing board, they have strongly objected to the 5.8 million cedis, that fine that was imposed by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission over the company's failure to provide a load shedding timetable. Now, we'll unbundle the details of this tussle between the two state entities this morning. We'll get into this matter, really, in the midst of all of this back and forth. O247 is suggesting that, look, with everything that's going on with ECG, you know, Gridco and others, we should go back to the conversation of the privatization of the Electricity Company of Ghana. We have been there before. We got our fingers bent with PDS. Is it time to revisit that conversation? Would we have the commitment to do things differently? Is this just about bringing in the private sector? Because we saw PDS. It was private sector in form, but in substance, it was politically intoxicated. We had a lot of politics, and the persons who were maybe behind it and fronting were highly politically connected. So is it just about bringing in the private sector, or we have to do things just beyond the face of the private sector? And can the public sector really turn the fortunes of ECG around if the politicization is taken out of the operations of ECG and the interference, as we have seen? We will talk about it this morning. But another issue that we will spend some time on is the sentencing of the former boss of Maslock, Sedina Tamaklo, and the former operations manager of that same organization, Daniel Axim, to some 10 years and 5 years in prison, respectively, for causing financial loss to the state. Now, this matter, to many, is just an indication of what would have happened to public sector players and politicians. They decide to take the public funds into private pockets. But there's a catch in there. So some lawyers will be joining me this morning. We'll have a conversation on the issues of extradition and also matters arising related to the causing financial loss to the state. We'll have a conversation this morning here on Key Point. As always, you are an integral part of the conversation. There are many ways you can join us to have your say on this program. My name is Alfred Ocansey. My guest will be joining me in the next few minutes. The conversation starts right now. Stay with us.
With your last cash left for the month, you decide to get a chicken bucket for the family. So you hop in your car and pay for the petrol to get to the drive-thru. Then you pay for the food. But 20 minutes later, that precious bucket of chicken is now a bucket of bones. Or you pay once right on your phone with the MyGoTV app to keep the whole family smiling for an entire month. For unbeatable value for money entertainment,
ooh, I love this.
There's only one way to go. GoTV. Love it.
This Sunday on Hot Issues.
Is government being unfair to organized labor, to the teachers, to the nurses?
I'm very hesitant to answer this, but in most cases, the government has not done its bit.
Will you consider political interference a challenge when it comes to the Commission's work?
Not at all. No political party has ever interfered to the best of my knowledge.
Who funds the Labour Commission?
What is the funding? The funding that government provides for the members is sitting allowance. They are not paying salaries. I think there's a high level of mistrust between the unions and the employers.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 10 p.m. only on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
She's been running the office furniture company for the last 15 years. And in the last 3 years, she curated the Mix Design Hub and also the Mix Restaurant.
As I was doing my research, there was something missing, and what was missing was office furniture.
Right.
There was no place to get the right furniture. Even if you were looking for a single chair for your home office, you couldn't find anything. At that time, the only place where you could get furniture was Kingdom Books.
Right. So who's your favorite Ghanaian musician?
Oh, I guess we don't need to say much.
Sarkodie! Binta Atta is our guest right here on Today's Woman for this week. Promise me that you won't miss it. It's on Saturday, 3 p.m. right here on TV3 with
Sarkodie
me.
is watching.
Sarkodie is watching.
I guess this is how you do it.
But I told you this. Hey. Okay.
Today's Woman with Cookie Tea shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
Love has got its own set of rules. But love can be a twisted tale of joy, deception, betrayal, and unexpected alliances. On April 20th, 2024 at 8 p.m., join us for the grand unveiling of Perfect Match Extra Season 2. Don't miss out on the thrill as we welcome and unveil our new set of housemates for this season. Intriguing housemates will step into the spotlight, ready to embark on a 10-week journey of love and connection. Studio audience should be seated by 6 p.m. Perfect Match Extra. Love, betrayal, heartbreak, and triumph. Perfect Match Extra on TV3 and pmextra.tv.
Sponsored by Close Up for your important oral care needs. Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soup for your soft and glowing skin. Flora Tissue, Top Choco, Bell Ice.
We don't want your stupid story.
5 young and ambitious ladies try to navigate the chaotic and unpredictable streets of Lagos.
Wale or Denuga?
Marion.
Marion. You should let me take you out sometime. Maybe a trip somewhere.
How is it that I have a full-time job?
Compose yourself, not to say place of business.
My dad still sends me money every single month.
You stay away from anyone with dreadlocks.
And yet my bank account is empty. How?
Girl, that's Lagos for you. You met the drama queen, Lola.
Oh, that bastard is going to regret ever dumping me. You know you have more than enough time to figure all this out.
That's easy for you to say, Susie. You have a man.
I don't think you can handle the truth.
I advise you, just tie him up and spank him like a naughty boy. All men must pay. Always.
What's happened to Tunde? Did you break up with him? We're in an open relationship.
I don't think you guys understand.
I want to be married this year.
Watch them figure out love, life, friendships, and finances in this thrilling and fabulous series titled Money, Men, Marriage. Watch how their lives unfold on TV3. Money, Men, Marriage.
Premiering Monday, 22nd April at 9 p.m. only on TV3.
Encouraging global diversity insights, tolerance, and cooperation among individuals and communities with diverse backgrounds.
A tapestry of cultures, each with its own worth, recognizing, accepting, respecting, and valuing global diversity.
I want this to be our chief.
Nana Pampers. Nana Pampers.
This week on Talented Kids, the performances aim to celebrate and showcase the richness of cultures, traditions, and perspectives from across the globe. It's an eviction week, so ensure your favorite contestant stays in the competition by dialing *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app to vote. Talented Kids, free to play.
Talented Kids shows on TV3 Sunday at 4 p.m.
Powered by Indomie. Sponsored by Coco Plus.
Deluxy Acrylic Paint.
Frutelli Calipo.
Vitamilk.
Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. CTIW Foundation. CTIW Foundation.
And supported by
This woman locked up the room to go and break a key.
Swear she's in a relationship with me and I can't have a boyfriend. It's more of a strategy of bringing all his girlfriend under one roof. So she comes to my room, touch me, hold my breasts. All sorts of girls in the house posted me.
This is Confessions, the groundbreaking talk show where hearts are laid bare and resolutions sought.
Just tell me, who is he?
I didn't mean to hurt you. I just couldn't resist him.
Him? Who is he?
It's my brother.
Your brother?
As the confession unfolds, we explore the depth of human emotions, address guilt, and work towards healing. I am Miss Nancy, your confidant and your companion on this journey. Here, honesty reigns supreme and judgment finds no foothold. Whether your transgressions are whispered secrets or thunderous regrets, this is your sanctuary. Join me and my resource persons. Trust me, they are wise counselors, deep spiritual people, and professionals. Confessions, the safe haven for all your secrets.
Confessions shows on Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
MTN.
Government should be looking at policies instead of being involved in industry and everything. It doesn't work. And it's about time Ghana realizes that it's not going to work for government to be involved in setting up companies and all those things. It doesn't work. Government should be contained with policies, and then private sector should be involved in setting up industries and everything. It works that way, and therefore you can attract more investments to come to the country, and it creates more employment. VRA and others are all government establishment. Let's give it out and divest to private sector, and then we inject money in there. And get the right people to do it. Greatco and others are all for private sector. Let's give them the money, get the qualified people, divest government from it, and let them do it. Other than that, electricity company is in a situation where we don't know, but that also must be divested and give it to private sector. Why are we still holding it when we don't have the money?
Well, sir, 247 to the second there. Why are we holding on to this if we just don't have the money? If the issues that ECG is confronted with are partly financial and issues of inefficiency, that's the proposal of the revered king. That, look, we should not continue to hold on to something we cannot effectively manage. But is that a consideration for where we are now and also what we are confronted with? Because for you and I, the fundamental expectation is that you would have stable power. And I bet that a number of you, in fact, we went to bed with so many of you sending us messages, just like me, we slept in darkness with all the discomfort and everything that comes with it. So what you are looking out for is stable power supply, because you are ready to pay. And I don't think the conversation is so much about tariffs. You know, I've had some persons this morning already having a conversation on our Facebook page that if the power would come and it will be stable and tariffs are moderate, then that's another conversation to consider. But in instances where you've already bought your credit, but you don't have power, and then it is the politics of it that's going on, sometimes very annoying. Welcome. This is Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Joining me in the studio is the Member of Parliament for the Bongo constituency. He is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, the Honorable Edward Bauer. Good morning, Mr. Bauer. Thank you very much for joining us here on Key Point.
Good morning, Alfred.
Your chairman, the Honorable Samuel Atachia, promised that ECG will release a timetable about 3 weeks ago. He said very soon.
Are you putting me on the spot now?
Yeah, I want to find out.
Oh, sorry.
Because your people have been asking.
I didn't know that. Go on.
Yeah. So when is the timetable coming? Or you can't speak for your chairman?
No, but basically, good morning to your viewers. I think this question is more appropriate. You can appropriately address it to ECG because they are supposed to comply with.
No, but your chairman told us that we should expect a timetable.
Yes, but
very soon.
But we don't have it
after that meeting. That
yes, so that's the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that so you have a situation where you have a utility, a state-owned utility that has decided to be very indisciplined. And so irrespective of whoever is involved and whoever is giving orders, they do not comply. You will recall that when we actually met them, that's about a week ago, thereabout, yes. The directive was that because we had listened to their conversations, and it was not only ECG, the whole state-owned entities,
Gridco,
VRA, PURC, everybody met everybody, and the final analysis was that the problem of the sector currently and why we are having power curtailment was because of mainly financial, because it's about 70% financial. And so it was very clear that, and in terms of prescriptions, as so hard it was going to be resolved, it was not going to be very immediate. And so on the basis of that, the chairman made those orders and said, look, from your presentations to us, we have a clear understanding that you do not even know when you can resolve this issue because it's an issue of money. Because most of the utilities could not meet the operational cost. So if that is the case, publish a timetable. They agreed that they will publish a timetable. It is on the basis of that the chairman then met the press and told the press that in the coming days, ECG was going to publish a timetable. But you and I know that they have not done it up to now. And I've always indicated that the very reason why they are not doing that is because they know the moment they publish a timetable, they have admitted that there's doom so.
But you don't even have to publish a timetable for us to know.
No, but I'm just trying to tell you that
the consumer's experience tells it all.
You are looking at I don't know how to make the term to use, but you see you want to know what are the indicators of official acknowledgement of doom so. Beyond just the fact that the consumer himself is suffering from, because you had just indicated that you have not had lice the whole of last night and you had to sleep in the heat. Beyond just that particular, the individual experiences, the other evidence will be that officially the utility would publish a load shedding schedule. And so that is what they do not want. And it's more of a political reason than a technical reason.
Well, you let me bring in Counsel Lawyer Martin Pebu, who is seated by you, talk about the politics, as annoying as sometimes it would get. He's a private legal practitioner, and I say that he's one of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country. And as we go on in this conversation, I'll tell you why. Because, but for him, some people probably should have been in jail by now. for standing as sureties for people. But it's also one of the leader of one of the individual bondholder groups. Good morning, welcome.
Morning, Mr. Ocansey. Morning.
Oh, okay. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Kojo Poku Nsafwa, who is an energy analyst, but also, most importantly, the chair of the Baumia Manifesto Subcommittee, Baumia Campaign Team Subcommittee on Energy. The Baumia Campaign Team Subcommittee on Energy. Kojo Poku Nsafwa, good morning, welcome.
Good morning, but Alfred, for all these years, I don't know why my name, you decide to put a Nsafwa at the end. Everybody knows my name is Kojo Nsafwa Poku. I really don't know why everybody wants to put a Nsafwa at the end of the Poku.
So, thank you for the correction. Kojo Nsafwa Poku.
You don't know that you are joking with a potential president.
Oh, please, my brother, tell him again that, you know, it's annoying. Everybody wants to put a Nsafwa at the end of the Poku. I don't know why.
Okay. Kojo, thank you for joining us, but thank you for the correction. I think it's important.
Thank you, my brother, and good morning. Good morning to your cherished viewers.
I see. Well, lawyer, you are a consumer, just like me. So when you hear the politics that goes around a situation like this, that because of the politics, even a very reasonable, commonsensical thing about if issuing a timetable is subjected to politics. And so if I issue a timetable, I'm only confirming what the people are going through. The ultimate experience that the consumer goes through is what we are looking at. Regardless of whether you issue a timetable or not, people know a certain pattern of when their lights go off and when it comes on. The chair of this Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament makes an emphatic statement that, look, we have met ECG, we've met Gridco, we've met VRA, we've given them a directive. And so this directive is not even coming from just the demand of PURC or even the consumer. If the subcommittee on mines and energy of Parliament would give a directive until date, we don't have it, then what else has to be done? I mean, for the consumer or from the consumer's perspective. Council.
Yeah, so it's nothing new. It just tells you, reiterates the statement by Socrates that politicians are crooks. That's it. That's it. Crooks and are busy what? Gaslighting us, because this is something that, as you said, commonsensically, this doomsday timetable should have been out. But I see how they keep making it look like rocket science, shifting blame. ECG keeps saying that they don't get enough notice from Gridco, so it's impossible to get a timetable. Then you find Matthew Opoku Prempeh come to insult us after we've paid him with our taxes, right? And he even still date has not had the courtesy to render an unqualified apology to us, right? And it goes on and on and on. So the basic thing is about the integrity deficit in our politicians, both left and right, NDC, MPP. That's the main problem. That's the main problem. Yes, Honorable.
Don't use the same brush to paint us.
Honorable, we voted you guys out in 2016 because you were performing bad, except that with hindsight, we've seen that your levels are better than this current administration. But in 2016, we were very angry at JM. JM didn't appear strong, except that history is proving that he's better than Akufo-Addo. That's all. By both parties, you are just all bad. That's the plain truth. Because if you guys were that good by now, Ghana should not be what it is today. We should have been far, 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 far ahead. Hey, we give you all the resources, the freebies. You get the best food, the best accommodation, fuel. So many things for free, yet you can't think. You are still so excessively greedy and grabbing left, right, center of your hands and your legs, everything. That is where the main problem is. That is the corruption. It's the corruption that politicians have an insatiable appetite for the public wealth. They appropriate it for themselves. That's what it is. That's what this whole thing is about. So what they're saying is that if this timetable comes out, then it means that they are sinking themselves, because election 2024 is just in the corner, 7th December, right? So that's the main thing. Because I followed the conversation on Joy FM about 3 days ago. Yeah, they brought, I think there's a Kojo Poku was also on it, right? Another person, and all of them, like you said, Honorable said, now we're seeing that the Dumso problem is largely financial. Yeah, the 70% is being quoted around. That is largely financial. And so that is a throwback to what? 2016, when Baumia was all over the place. Oh, our Dumso problem is a financial problem. That's, in other words, generation. Because there's a lot of gas. If we pay the Nigerians, we'll get gas. If we pay the Nigerians, we'll get gas. You remember there was this, the independence anniversary celebration, the president's speech, that, oh, they had negotiated with the IPPs and reduced the monthly payments.
That was the State of the Nation address.
Independence celebration, the State of the Nation.
SONA, he mentioned that they had renegotiated the debt owed the IPPs from the reported 1.7 billion to 1.3 billion.
Okay, and that's the same.
Was mentioned.
Good, and that the monthly payments coming down from 70-something million to 43 million.
That was at the State of the Nation.
Yes. Now, it's standard that these IPPs have not signed. They've not signed off. Can you imagine? They've not signed off. Yes, so what it is that it's been verbal, right? But nobody signed off the agreement. So you see that they are kept saying that I wish Jinapo were here, John Jinapo were here. So I said anything I say is subject to what he comes to say, because at least he's a ranking member, so we can trust that he will bring out more information than the people in government will want to do, right? It's standard that agreement has not been signed off. It's just a verbal agreement. I know when it's verbal, anything can happen.
So let me take your thought quickly on this Otufo say to the second proposal that, look, if the issue is largely financial, then why don't we just look at the private sector coming in again? Let's go back to the path of PDS that left our fingers bent a few years ago.
Yes, with due respect to Otufo, I largely disagree. The problem is not about the model, whether it's in private hands or in public hands. It's about the integrity deficit. It's that greed. It's the stealing syndicate. The one Kennedy Japan talked about, that the members of this administration are stealing as blind, stealing like there's no tomorrow. That is where the problem is. It's not about public or private. When PDF came, you know we have over 1 billion cedis with them. PDF took our money, it's over 1 billion. PDS, when they took over, the revenues they collected, you know, they've not returned it. We've been making noise, I don't know where it is. Honorable, have we received the money back from PDF? It's still with them.
No, but where's...
That money is still with them.
Any attempt to try and retrieve that money? Mines and Energy Committee or Parliament?
No, so let's put it in perspective. So PDS worked between March and October, right? And within that period, they were working like any other distributor that would work. Obviously, they were paying the players within the value chain. So even though the amount of money they would have received within that period is what is talking about, 1 billion, but they would have definitely been paying the utilities. The challenge we have rather had was the fact that from March till October, the amounts that they collected, that it should be subjected to what they call it, audit. For us to know as to how much was collected, how did they do the payments to the various utilities? I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is more of accounting for the money. I don't know what I'm making sense. Because I know you just wanted a response from me.
Yeah, good. And so when you see somebody...
the lack of accountability.
When you see somebody running from an audit, what do you think it is?
So if it's the lack of accountability, what has been then done to ensure that that accountability element is restored for us to be able to get the full details of how these monies were expended? I think that's a fundamental issue. But hold on your thoughts on it more. Let me bring in Kojo Poku. So on this one, this is one that he, as well, until his appointment to the Bamia campaign team, had written quite extensively on it. Kojo, now this is the proposal that the revered king is making, that with all of this, it is, if the problems are largely financial, then if government doesn't have the money, as we have seen now, bring in the private sector, which has the money to be able, or to raise the money to be able to address the challenges that ECG is faced with. Find out your quick thoughts on this matter.
Well, good morning again. Look, it's very unfortunate when people set their own question and answer them as well. This largely financial. I think we've gone past it. Everybody wants to talk about it. Martin Kweku all of a sudden wants to now talk about things not being record signs, talking about technicalities he does not understand. The last time I was in the studio with him, when I was just speaking mere English, he told me I'm not a lawyer. How can I be speaking about law when I'm not a lawyer? He is now talking about technicalities he doesn't understand, saying that it's a simple matter of producing a timetable. Does he know what goes into that process to give a timetable? And he's sitting next to somebody who was part of a committee that did that exercise. So at least he can educate him privately to let him know that it is not just a mere timetable. There is a lot that goes into that thing before. You understand? So what you have to understand is that this timetable issue, let me address that and I think we can move on. You have seen the documentation that have gone to show that whenever GRIDCO, who wields the power and manages the grid, informs ECG, ECG has come out to say that they give them about 1 hour to 3 hours notice when they are having challenges with the frequency on the. You've seen that document, Alfred, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that document goes to tell us that there isn't enough time, and ECG themselves have challenges. You remember the letter GRIDCO wrote to the minister, where ECG has come out to say that, look, they disagree with GRIDCO in part and in large, at points when they have asked them to shed load. I have explained this over and over. There are two concessionary areas in Ghana. There is NETCO and there is ECG. ECG has their own power purchase agreements within which they operate, and they have basically arranged and signed off in agreement with these power producers. If at any point in time, your people you have signed an agreement with is generating far in excess of what you need for your concessionary area, then somebody calls you to tell you that, look, I know that you need maybe 2,000 megawatts for your concessionary area. The power purchase agreement, those that you have signed with, the IPPs, the independent power producers, are producing 3,000. But you only need 2,000 that you signed the agreement, please manage load of, let's say, 200 megawatts. ECG is saying that, why should I manage the load? Because my contractual obligation is being met and I should be able to get power for my customers. So look, there is a letter that went from GRIDCO to ECG, why ECG is not complying with GRIDCO's directives. And the minister is trying to resolve that matter. But this issue of money, and please, I was not on any phone call or any radio program 3 days ago where everybody agreed that it was by and large about money. This thing where everybody wants to now drag it as money, let's leave it there and let's move on to the substantive question that you asked. Yes, look, private sector participation has been long talked about. When we didn't go through PDS, some of us were of the full understanding that after PDS was abrogated, the government will have a second bite, learning from the mistakes of PDS. For me, I think there are two instances that led to the failure of PDS. When the government said that there should be 51% Ghanaian shareholdership, okay? The money required, you needed about $510 million to be invested in ECG for 5 years. And if you now say that Ghanaians should own 51%, it means that Ghanaians have to cough up over $250 million in 5 years. There was nobody and no institution in Ghana with that money. Okay, so what happened was that you now find out that they intend to bring in certain companies who also didn't feel why they should now invest the money, why they didn't have the majority shareholding. And it's natural for every company not to want to invest money if they are not the majority shareholder. So I think that was in large. But look, private sector works. I don't know why somebody would think that whether it's in public or private hands, it is integrity or whatever that causes that. No, private sector works because we as private sectors, when we run institutions, we run it well. Yes, we might make decisions that people don't agree with. It's just to show that the institutions that the great king mentioned are the ones, Gridco, VRA. I think Gridco, because there is only one Gridco transmission company, it will be difficult to sell it off. What we could look at is some level of equity participation from private sector in the minority space, and maybe give operatorship to private sector. There is other aspect of VRE. Yes, that one too, maybe you can look at the COFOR model, where we basically list some of these companies on the stock exchange and only diversify about minority stake of 49%. The only problem is that before you can list any of these companies on the stock exchange, the company should be structured well, so at least it makes profit in 3 years on a row. You cannot list a loss-making company on the stock exchange. So it's a good approach. I have talked about diversity, as Alfred, you rightly said. I have talked about diversifying most of these government institutions for so many years. And there are so many institutions that I can list that I don't see why government owns them 100%. It just doesn't make sense.
I see. Well, in the midst of all of this and the conversation that goes on, and thank you for the initial the statement on this matter, and I'll bring in Edward Bauer, because you see, whatever the technicalities that goes into producing a timetable or the otherwise, just like a consumer, like Martin Bebu and myself, we would not want to see the various players fighting in public as to who has to do what and who is not doing what. The fundamental thing is that we want to be at least giving a certain modicum of respect when it comes to notification, so that people would know what to do with their lives, and businesses as well. So what is all this?
So thank you very much.
Then we'll move to what else.
So thank you very much. I've always had a disagreement with Kojo Poku on the issue of this timetable and the position of ECG in all this. And I'm happy that he had acknowledged that at least when we had power challenges between 2014 thereabout to 2015, I happened to have been part of the committee that was looking and also dealing with load, what they call management schedule. You see, as a distributor, you can have a general outlook and know that, oh, for this month, consistently I was getting X amount of power, which is lower than what I should ordinarily get from my consumers. So I use that as my indicative data. And I then tend to draw a schedule, grouping my consumers into various sections. So that if I know that on the average I've been shedding about 50 megawatts, so I know that I will put my consumers in those sections, so that any time there's the need to shed load, I know that today it is Agbugloshi that I need to put off. Tomorrow, if Grico tells me that I need to shed load, I know that the next time is going to be maybe Malata. And the next time, if they say I should shed load, maybe then it comes to Dansuma. Then maybe it comes back to Agbugloshi. I don't know where I get in the point. So you do that. Now, if in the course of that, assuming that it is the time for Agbugloshi to go off, but we have had enough power to be able to cover everybody, then Agbugloshi gets lice. If it is that we may be shedding more than the amount that what they call Agbugloshi can take, they may add the next community that is supposed to come or go off. So that's how they do it. Now, the argument Kojo has been making, and I believe that he's making this point because that is the concern raised by ECG, that they are not giving enough notice. On daily basis, Gridco by 4 o'clock would have given you a supply outlook. Some of you who go on my wall, you see that I've shared some of the supply outlook on my wall. So they tell you that we are expecting, because usually during the day, Gridco would have spoken to all the generators and know, are you available or you are not available? I get the point. Then they will look at the demand that has been there over a period of time. Then they know that based on this, the supply cannot meet the demand. So I will tell the distributors, whether it is NETCO, whether it is ECG, that shared X amount of power. And then you get it. So they tell you that. The basis for, ECG having to give a timetable is that because we all are facing challenges, isn't it?
Yes.
We should share the challenges equitably. I shouldn't have a situation where consistently, maybe, Alfred, your area will be off and every time my area is on. The only way to avoid that is through a timetable. But because ECG is not, normally when Greco tells ECG that, look, share X amount of power, and based on the logic that Kojo Poku is indicating, that ECG says, I have PPAs with companies that meet my demand. So on the basis that I'm not going to share load, then they decide to put all their consumers on. If they put all their consumers on, Gridco, who is the systems controller, will sit down and look at the system and say that, look, my demand is outstripping my supply, and therefore it's compromising my system. And usually when it outstrips it, you then have what we call the national blackout. You know, the whole country goes off. To be able to avoid that, they then will decide to take off somebody, some group of people from the grid.
Okay.
And usually they do not sit down there to tell you that, oh, today Alfred went off, because for them they want to provide, they want to protect the integrity of their network.
Sure.
So they will dump you. So they can dump you today, dump you tomorrow, dump you tomorrow night. That's why you have in an area, you can have somebody having lights off continuously for about 3 days, 4 days. Meanwhile, another area, you are having this. And that is what Gridco wanted to avoid, and that's why he did this. But quick one. The lack of supervision from the ministry, because in all this, in the ministry superintend over these agencies, you have a crisis. Usually what you will expect from a sector minister is to call all the agencies involved in that crisis to come and sit around the table.
And are you saying that that is not happening?
If it is happening, they will not be reporting. If it was happening, and then usually you will have a picture of what the problem is. Then on the strength of that, you give directives as to how the agency should behave within the crisis. The fact that you have Gridco writing to the minister that this is the problem tells you that they have not sat down to have a conversation. That's the point. And so if you see the situation, and then the point he makes about the fact that, oh, ECG has a concession with, or maybe PPAs with other, what they call IPPs, and from their PPAs, they know that they have enough power to meet their demand. The truth of the matter is that the fuel situation that we have has hit mainly the what they call the IPPs. And when I use the word, because they do the thermal. For Akosombo, sorry, when I use Akosombo, I mean VRA. Yes. VRA does not have PPA with any distributor. Indeed, it is one of the problems VRA has always had. They do not have PPAs with any distributor. So on the basis of that, and meanwhile, in this crisis, we are depending heavily on VRA because of the dams. Look, VRA had projected that by the first quarter of this, this year, they were supposed, Hydro was supposed to contribute about just 62% of their total, supply of power. So, you know, because they have both thermal, solar, and they have solar, thermal, and then hydro. And so they said that, look, based on our own projection, by the first quarter, hydro should constitute about 62% of the total power that will supply into the grid. Do you know how much they have done this as the first quarter? 75. The reason why they are doing 75 is because of the fact that they are forced to generate more power coming from the hydro. So ECG cannot sit down and say, because I have PPAs that cover a number of plants, therefore I know that I have sufficient power, so I would not share load. That is simply a very erroneous, conclusion to come to. But to come to the Nana's issue, because I just wanted to address his case, to come to the Nana's issue, respectfully, I think that I heard him. He said, look, because we are not being able to handle some of these things, VRA, other things should be sold out to private sector or given out to private sector to manage. Look, my brother, well, there's a reason.
Permit me, before you go on, I've just got this reminder, and it's important, because the last time you were here in the studio with Kojo Poku, right? The last time you were here. And I asked a question about any indication of when this was going to end. Kojo Poku had indicated that, Kojo, you said that you were privy to some conversation that suggested that by the end of the month of March, this whole power situation, the Dumso and all of that was going to be over. I recall that because I asked you that question in the studio 3 weeks ago when you were here. We are still experiencing these power outages. What's happening? Where did you get that information from? On mute for me. On mute.
Hello. I have not muted.
I'm hearing. I'm just going back to that statement
what I'm
you
saying
made.
is that the people sending you those text messages have been going around following me on every interview trying to get that question. Look, I'm not a government appointee.
But you are a member of...
not even any... Oh, hold on. Let me land, please. I'm not a government appointee. I can only talk about the information I'm privy to. And as the chairman of a manifesto committee, what I am looking at is professing solutions for future, not for current. So yes, I am privy to certain conversation. There was meetings in Pukias, in the Pediasi. There was meetings the following Monday. There have been subsequent meetings by the ministry and the presidency. And the assurances that have come out is that they put measures in place and the situation is being resolved. Look, by and large, the situation has improved. It has improved. I don't think anybody would say that.
You didn't say the situation was going to improve. You said it would end.
Well,
that's
yes,
what you said.
Please, I know what I said. I'm not walking it back. I'm telling you that I am not the guy sitting on the chair. I'm the guy who just hear and privy to conversations. So if based on the conversation I know, I say that we will not enter May. Sorry, we will not enter April with this situation. And we are still in it to an extent, but a much improved situation. It means that it's a progress, it's an ongoing progress. Okay? So look, the point that my brother made...
I just wanted a quick response to that. So just to put it in perspective, that the statement you made is not a reflection of the fact and the reality that the people are faced with right now.
It's not entirely true. Alfred, I don't like when you put words in my mouth. It's not entirely true.
No, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm only saying that you said the situation was going to end. We're experiencing it right now.
Some people, in much area, the situation has improved. It's only a small area that we have a few. Look, 3 days ago, we had a trip at the Tema. Hold on.
Could you, if you say it's a small area, what do you mean?
Stop that. We all have
small.
What do you mean?
Let me when you ask a question, let me land, please. 3 days ago, I have always said that we have a mechanical, electrical that we are managing. When you have a moving process, anything can happen. Look, 2 days ago, there was a trip in Tema. When these things happen, things can happen. So look, yes, there are challenges that were in the system, improved massively. Then every now and then, you're still getting 1 or 2 problems that happen, which is creating a few pockets of problems. But it has improved much. It has improved massively. Okay? So I'm saying that some areas are having...
Could you, well, if you say it's improved massively, on what basis? Because I'm talking specifically based on the experiences of the people. So if you're saying this situation has improved, where's the data?
Yes, but
where's the data?
Of the people is that look, Alfred, I am on about 18 regional platforms. 18. Which is almost, I can say that on terms of the party platforms, because I went around and campaigned, I still keep the campaign platforms that I'm on. On these platforms, when the lights start going off badly in those regions and those areas, everybody complains on those platforms. And the reason how I gauge it is the complaint of light outages on these platforms. And I monitor my WhatsApp greatly. And I'm saying that pockets of Greater Accra, by large, is where the problem is in the last week.
No, well, I'm
sure that one is being looked at.
Well, I tell you what, that's not the case. Not just pockets of Greater Accra. Before we went to bed last night, areas like Koforidia experienced power outages. We had information as well, some parts of Western region. Also, we got information from areas in Central region as well. So because you have indicated that if I hold you to strict proof on some of the things you say, you tell me that you are not a government appointee. So I'm not going to... I don't
have a problem with that.
But I'm just telling you, there's not a Greater Accra problem.
Well, I don't have a problem with that because by and large, you know that there's also localized problems. So the localized problems are there. So by the fact that lights go off, people should understand that lights always go off in Ghana. I've always said this. So they are localized problems.
But, you know, Mr. Wow, you know what?
Instances where there are challenges that manage, which is the low end.
Okay. You see, this thing about localized fault, let's not deceive the people, because you know, if they know if it's a localized fault or not, is what is
you
happening,
know,
does it constitute
are you saying
a
that there are
localized
no localized
fault?
problems?
So no, could you hold on a bit for me? Yes.
So you see, usually because the energy sector looks a bit technical, people are always confused with terms. Localized problem. This is just this, that. Look, localized problems cannot permeate all over at the same time. Localized problem simply means that, like, for example, in my neighborhood, my transformer is messed up. And so all those, the load on that particular transformer would have gone off. And ordinarily, with localized problems, unless it's a very major one, within 30 minutes, because you normally will have teams, they have their operational teams that go around. You normally will have between 30 minutes and 1 hour, they will have resolved it. You cannot be telling me that a greater portion of the country, or maybe let's even say a lot of areas within the country, not even just in one area, suddenly all will have localized problem that will expand to, say, let's say about 6 hours. I mean, it tells you that basically it is not the issue of localized problem.
I see. 2,
you see, when the last time I came here, when I was drawing the attention that, look, because it is finance, the challenge is that government has other competing needs. And so that one, 1st April deadline, or maybe I don't know, the end of March deadline that was given was being too ambitious, because I didn't know where they were going to get the money from, particularly at a time when ECG itself had become so indisciplined and was not making the cash waterfall mechanism work. So I was wondering where this was going to come from. And we have been proving right that, look, we still have this load shedding going on. So I empathize with him. You see, all their people, all their people have run away. They don't talk again. He's the only one who goes around talking. The reason why he's the only one going around talking is because he is desperate to see his presidential candidate win election. And he wants to see how to diffuse this. But the people who really are in the sector have all decided not to talk. The only time the energy minister decided to talk, he decided to insult Ghanaians. That's the only time. Because he simply cannot address the issue. And all of us know what the issues are. The PRC's document that has come out even makes cases even worse. That you have a situation where a state distributor of power can look into the eyes of Ghanaians and lie.
Okay, but
so I'm just because we have not come there yet.
Yes.
But I'm just trying to say that basically Kojo Boko was being too ambitious. All of us make mistakes in our targets, and then he should accept that. I mean, his deadline didn't meet, or maybe he was giving wrong rapport. And so the wrong rapport that they gave him was what he came and said here. So, I mean, that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, but Kuko, on this Otunfo's proposal, you were going on that path before I heard.
Sorry.
Let's move on.
Can I quickly? I'm not desperate for my candidate to win. I know my candidate is the best candidate Ghanaians are going to vote for.
Okay.
So I'm not desperate.
Right. Okay, yes.
Okay, so the Otunfo's thing. So back to the Otunfo's case. You see, I was saying that the whole idea of bringing the private sector into the, into the space, into the energy space, has been something that has been conceived even during the 1990s under the power sector reforms. So everybody understands that. But it is also important for everybody to also understand that the state must have a role to play in that. And not only on regulation, but as a participant within the sector, if for nothing at all, for national security issues. Can you imagine that you have all your generating plants, everything in your sector in the hands of private sector? And most of it are not. This private sector, yes, you can have Ghanaians, but you can also have foreigners. Can you imagine what will happen if one day they decide to hold you to hostage, that they are not going to generate power? How are you going to get power? So for national security issues, what was said was that, look, yes, let private sector play a role, but whilst they play a role, let the state also play a role. And that's why VRA, and for that matter, other agencies are playing those roles. And I respectfully disagree with the king when he says that things like VRA and other things all should be given to the private sector. That will be suicidal. And there's no country that will advise you to do it. That's the first thing. 2, the issue of GridCo. Issue of GridCo cannot go to a private sector. You see, and there was a reason why GridCo was taken out of VRA. You are the state. And because you are the state, you will have to sit there and control all the various systems. So Gridco, and the reason why they took Gridco away from VRA was the one doing the transmission. So they realized that will not bring competition into the field, because VRA was a player, and again to be a transmitter. So assuming that they were supposed to they are supposed to transmit power to, say, distribute a bulk consumer like ECG. The truth of the matter is that VRO will want to dispatch its own power first before they go to the private sector to do, because they are the one controlling it. So as part of the reforms, that's the World Bank, what do you call it, the power sector reform that was supported by the World Bank. They said that take at Gridco and let it be independent, but controlled by the state. But now they gave a guideline as to how they dispatch power. And the way they dispatch power based on economic basis. The cheapest first, in a way to ensure that the end user also has cheaper electricity or affordable electricity to me. So VRA, ECG then, Gridco then sits down and operate and then dispatch all the power, both private sector and government sector. But there's a format. It's not based on their whims and caprices, but it's based on the cheapest power that is dispatched first. So that's a format. So let's not contemplate even the idea that private sector should come and control our national transmission system. No, that is a very dangerous thing. So I agree that private sector should play a part. And I'll give you a typical example of where this thing is working. Under the NDC, beyond just the compact that came, that the MPP came and bastardized through the PDS, you've heard of Enclave Power. Enclave Power is a private sector distributor. And their duty is to distribute power to the free zones board, the free zones area. So all the companies under the free zones area are not hooked to ECG. They are hooked to Enclave Power. And Enclave Power is a private sector organization, distributor. And this was one of the things that the NDC was planning to do. That look, beyond just the PDS coming in, gradually we're going to have competing players within the distribution sector. Say that, like if you go to, say, the US or the UK, I can choose today that I'm using this distributor, and tomorrow, because their services are no good, I switch to another distributor. And that is the plan that the NDC did, and we started it with the Enclave Power. And you can see that in all these conversations, Enclave Power has never had an issue with us, because they are running their thing and they are being accountable for the power that they give to them. I see.
Well, let me bring in Ben Boakye, is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP. Ben Boakye is attending the IMF spring meetings in the US graciously. He's a big man. He's joining us on Zoom from the closing moments of the IMF spring meetings. Mr. Boakye, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us here on the key point. First off, I know this is the second proposal is one that, at least the two people I have in studio have all disagreed that this proposal is not one to consider at this time. But if you look at even the demeanor and the tone, the context in which he put it, it's born out of the frustration that all of us are feeling, that if the situation is going on and we, the consumers, are not really having a headway of what's happening to ECG and Gridco, then let's look at privatization as well, if that's a solution to this problem. Find out your thoughts on this.
No, I think that position is a position that the country itself took to bring in the private sector more than 10 years ago. And it happened that we couldn't progress to actually finalize the private sector participation in the way that it was envisioned. So it's not off to bring it back, for us to discuss. Perhaps, what we could entreat the king to do is to also be part of the monitoring of such a process to ensure that it's not a repetition of PDS, but a proper structure that brings in a private sector with capacity to actually invest and be able to lessen the burden of government and the people of Ghana, through recurrent, subsidy of the sector, and also the abuse of resources that we see in the value chain. So I think it's a good call, but it's way more than that. If you look at what happened with PDS, we would perhaps not be spending the billions that we are doing today if we had been able to deliver on that process, except that we were not sure because of the structure and the people we handed ECG to, rather than a capable company that can actually deliver value. We looked for politicians and handed over the asset to them, only to realize that even the guarantees, the insurance guarantees that they provided were not a competent security.
But you have others also make the point that, is that to say that only the private sector can deliver the efficiency that is needed, especially when the state has managed ECG over the period, and then now we are seeing all of these inefficiencies? Is it that it's only the private sector that can deliver the efficiency and the financing that ECG needs at this time?
I think ECG has been managed for many decades, particularly in the era when government was the owner of the value chain. So government generated power, government procured fuel, government transmitted the power. So government controlled the entire value chain. And therefore, if government couldn't pay the generator, it's the same government. If government couldn't pay the transmitter, it was the same government. But when we decided to bring in the private sector, it was urgent that we put in place a strategy that improves liquidity situation in the sector. And that required that the company that manages the cash flow or receives money from consumers actually does a good job. And that is why it became urgent that we, put ECG at a place where they could actually deliver that value. And that's what necessitated the whole PDS arrangement, if you recall. So with the private sector involved in generation, they are always going to demand their money, and I'm sure you can testify to the recurrent demand from the IPPs for debt owed to them. So we can't continue to do things at business as usual as if there's no agency. It is not the state, only the state generating power. We have other private entities in there, and therefore making sure that the liquidity situation is improved or responds to the needs of the industry is critical.
But how about take out the political interference, and then also all of this, the extreme politics in the power sector, and sometimes even having people who don't have the right competence in there, and everything will be fine? Is that one as well that can be done without necessarily having to resort to the private sector for correcting all the ills in the public sector?
I mean, so you're trying to deal with a problem permanently. And the way to deal with it is to ensure that you insulate politics from it. We'd go into political cycles every 4 years at least. And therefore, you cannot guarantee, how things will go with another political context. So what you want to do is to ensure that at all times, the generation, distribution, transmission of electricity is treated as business, all right? And that is why it is important that we isolate the long hand of government from the business and ensure that it runs that way. So it's not enough to say that today we have, a good appointment. We have more competent hands handling it. You never can read what the next political leader would do. And that is where the threat comes in. But if you want to treat it as business and isolate politics from it, our understanding is that you want to bring in the private sector so that the state can regulate them, for us to achieve the benefits that we are actually looking for the people, rather than playing dual role of regulating and also doing the business.
Okay, I see. And Mr. Bache, hold on a bit for me, because at least we've had one person amongst us who sort of agrees with this proposal by Otomfo to the second that we can consider it now, taking into consideration all the issues.
So put it this way, I think that there has been the point I was trying to make to you was that, look, I don't have a problem, and that's, I told you, it's part of the power sector reforms, so that they come and play a role. But I'm saying that we cannot as a nation say that government should just stay off.
Yeah,
right. Because for security reasons and strategic reasons, you cannot. I get the point I mean. Indeed. So, yes, VRA can be there, but let other players, private sector, come in with their capital and also be part of it and then compete.
Yes. So, that, I mean, don't forget me, I have, when PDS came, I was involved in, representing some people, so I understand a bit about the transaction. What we are saying is that, listen, this thing is not about private sector or public. It's about the human beings. You have crooks. Baumia sat down there and changed the guarantee, right, from bank to insurance. And it's been one of the big problems. So it's the human beings. It's the integrity deficit. It's not about public or private. Look at China. What didn't the US and co say? Look at China. You know how much the Chinese government is involved in business? Sino, Hydro, etc. They have large companies owned by the government. Yet today, look at them. Are they not number 2 in the world? They will soon overtake the US in terms of the size of their economy. So it's the human beings. You go try corruption in China. You see how they execute them, etc. So it's the Ghanaian. The thievery is the problem. It's not about public or private. It's the thievery. So let's not shift around. You see, Honorable mentioned, when I was in school, the time they were doing this matter of taking, restructuring the system so that VRA will not control the distribution. I remember the lectures. There was a big guy from the, VRA. He came to give the lecture, blah, 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 so they will change, and then Gridco will be in charge of just,
Jet transmission.
Transmission, wheeling charges. So, like you said, the cheapest. And that time, when you read natural resources, it's a course. Which kata teaching us so everything will go well. They brought PURC people to come and lecture. How many? Over 25 years on. The same problem. Please, you ask free chikata. That's his area. Lecture. You lecture lawyers. So when Kojo Safu tells me that I don't know anything about this area, it's laughable. More than 25 years ago, I read natural resources, and these things were things that were what? Constant. We wrote exams on those. And in practice, I've seen a number of cases. So that one is different. My involvement in this debate is different from the example he was giving. He was trying to espouse a legal principle that didn't exist. But what I am talking about is factual, that ECG can give that timetable. Please, could you stop deceiving us that it's so complex that there can be no timetable? I'm telling you that you don't understand anything if you say no timetable can be produced. Did you hear what Honorable told you? You do the averages. It's common sense. You don't need to be an engineer. You just should know. Question number 1. For how many months now? Do we have a deficit in generation or not? Answer. Do we have a deficit in generation or not? So if you have a deficit, what do? You can't plan. This is what you call rocket science. Master, we've been in this industry for about 25 years. So I don't know whether 25 years ago you had read natural resources and this sector, how it's to be structured. Well, you should answer 25 years ago.
I got a message from Salaga that the lights just went off in Salaga, Mohammed. And then also one of our viewers in the Netco area, also that's a Northern Electricity Distribution Company. They had issued a notice, and Kojo, this is to you, because the briefing may be the platform that you are on. I would assume that you said that these are.
I wish you could have put it on the platform. Let them know.
That gives you information. Well, they might be very limited in giving you that information of what's happening across the country. I'll tell you what. Netco has also put out.
Alfred.
Yes.
Alfred,
I'll come to you.
Well, Alfred,
I'll come to you.
I think it's very unfair. No, Alfred.
I'll come to. No, I'm not going to curtail you. I'll come to you.
Let me land. No,
I'll come to you. I'm not going to curtail your commentary. I'll come to you. I'm just showing. No, I'm just showing viewers something. This one says we have from Netco. There's actually a notice that areas were going to go off today. And as we speak, some of the areas we understand are experiencing power outages. And some are going to go off between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Yendi, Bimbila, Gushin, Salaga,
that was yesterday. It's 19th. It was 19th yesterday.
Bandai, Ketekrachi, Chindre, Saboba, Zabzugu, and its surrounding communities.
Yeah.
Friday, 19th.
This, according to the notice, will enable Gridco to carry out maintenance work at the substation. So this is not limited to an Accra situation, as you suggested earlier. Kojo?
Okay, so Alfred, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Well, before I get to this substation that you just brought up, look, I think as a host of this program, it's unfair when you let Martin Kweku sit on this program and call people thieves, stealing, crooks. It's not fair. He cannot call the vice president of this country crook without any evidence.
I don't think he made direct reference to the vice president when he made that statement.
No, please, you can play back the video. He did. He should retract.
I'm not.
No, wait.
No, he did. He
I said politicians. It's a general statement. Politicians.
No, wait. No, because you made because you are making a categorical statement. Kojo, the only time that Martin Kweku made direct reference to the vice president was a changing of the clause.
Yeah. From the
statement he made.
Please. Let's not
the statement he made about
you can play back that tape. Martin Kweku called the vice president a crook.
Kojo,
please.
No, hold on. I think he's listening to something else. So you.
How am I listening to something else? I'm listening to this very program.
Hold on.
Martin Kweku
because we were all here. So if he said that, I would hold him to strict.
I think that.
I think you are confusing.
Then you should,
yes, but no, hold on.
A drowning man will plot to
hold on.
Initially, he said stealing. As a lawyer, you can't say stealing without evidence.
No.
What I say?
He did not make direct reference to the vice president when he said.
I said politicians are crooks.
So okay. Since you are saying that we should go back, we will. So you proceed to the point.
But you see, I think that maybe Kojo, the statement he made was that he first quoted Socrates and said that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Then
right now, when he talked about Dr. Baumia single-handedly changed the guarantee, that statement before he preceded that statement, he said that the crook. Dr.
That's not what he said. Maybe somebody is sending you.
When dry bones are mentioned,
maybe somebody is sending you something, but that's not what he said. We can say
when dry bones are mentioned,
that is not what he said. Let's proceed. So don't worry. If you're talking about going back to play, we will. Yes. So proceed with your point.
Okay, so please, let me make a point, okay? And I think you just saw an announcement from NEDCO saying that they are going to work on a substation. And somebody is trying to say that it's load management. In that statement you read, clearly states that there is a work to be undertaken on a major substation by Gridco, and a notice has been given to the people in the area.
So they've given them a timetable. They've given them a timetable.
Yeah. Yes, but that is not the same conversation we are having, Honorable Bauer. We are having about a load management problem across the country. And I went on to say that we are not able to give a timetable, and in large, in the evenings, I have realized that the system is stable. And you're saying that somebody is saying that the NEDCO area is off and there's a notice that has come out. But the notice says that there's a substation work to go on. Are we saying that maintenance don't go on in this country? Are we saying that local problems that doesn't exist in this country? Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's try to paint everything with the same brush. This is where the problem is. You see, I have admitted, and you see, my brother Edward Bauer said that, I'm admitting I'm the only one talking because I'm desperate for my candidate to win. I'm not. The truth needs to be told that, yes, we've admitted that there are challenges. It is being solved. It's a work in progress. It has improved by and large. But this thing where every little problem is being put out there as if it's the same. And clearly, the notice you put up says substation maintenance. How is that the same? But anyway, let me go back to an earlier submission my brother Ben did. You know, my brother Ben now is a big man. He's in the US looking very fresh.
Look.
On this conversation, I think there is two of us, myself and Ben, that agree on the privatization. Alfred, you said that only one person agrees. I also agree. But the thing is that there's a lot that needs to be done before something like Gridco and VRA can be privatized. And I have said that privatization of Gridco or VRA cannot be a wholesale sale of those entities because of the the monopoly role they play. There is a lot going on, and I think because Cabinet has passed some of these things, I can actually put it out on air. You know, NEDCO and ECG, there's a cabinet approval for the two to be merged. Then there is also a cabinet approval for VRA Hydro and BU Authority to become one. So you're going to have BU Authority and VRA, which is Volta River Authority, as one entity. The government has stripped the VRA Thermal as a separate entity. So when the documents and the normal parliamentary processes and all the documents and the laws are done, we are going to have one entity that will be a BPA, BU Power Authority, and Volta River Authority as one entity. And we are going to have ECG and NEDCO as one entity. And these things are things that government have passed has given the cabinet approval for these processes to go ahead. So when you now strip out some of, and with GRIDCO, you see, GRIDCO carries a dual function. There is the function of being the transmission company, but GRIDCO also plays a role which is more like a market administrator, which is the dispatch of power and also looking at all these other auxiliary technical wheeling that they do. And some of us are of the view that these things need to be streamlined. And if you're able to take some of these powers away from some of these institutions, it will be okay to privatize some of them, not necessarily selling them 100%, but be able to bring in private sector participation as a minority stake on some of these institutions.
Okay, well, just to establish the fact that what's the name? Bemboache indicated, it's just an outlier of some of the things that you have mentioned. So I didn't, you also made reference to what the private sector can do, just as all of us here have talked about as well. So there is a portion or a part of the problem private sector can solve, but not wholesale lifting to the private sector.
But no, but you see,
there's
a point he made that for me is also important. Okay. You see? So the issue, for example, if you were to take ECG, you know, we have a model. Look at GOIL. You know, GOIL, government has shares in it, but we floated it in the stock, our stock exchange, and private sector has bought into that. I think it's 49.51 in terms of the shareholding. So we can do that with ECG. But the challenge with ECG and trying to do those things would be that we must first make sure that the books of ECG are good. You understand? There are certain conditions that you will need to meet to be able to be listed on the stock exchange. Part of it is your financial health. I get the point making. Yeah. So we can get to do all those things. Government can decide maybe on its own to say that, look, on the basis of this, and I will take over all the liabilities of ECG in terms of debt and every other thing, and take it as, what do you call it, the debt of central government. And then leave ECG to have a very good, nice book. And they say, okay, on the strength of this, we are floating shares on the stock exchange. So you can do those things. And there are things that we have seen the GOIL model work and work very well. We have institutional funding that we can use. Look, what prevents, for example, SNIT, that has been investing in, what do you call it?
Real estate.
To take a stake in the distribution tester. What prevents NAT, with all the monies they have, to invest in that? These are institutional funding that you can use to be able to buy stakes on the stock exchange. Because if you take even GOIL, you have BOST, having been a shareholder at GOIL. So these things can be done. It's just that we must do it in a very transparent manner. And we should not do it like what we did with the PDS. Yeah. But we should do it in a transparent manner.
All right.
Yes.
Talk about transparency. You, the minority, you're saying that, in fact, this statement is attributed to you, Mr. Bauer, that you will investigate some $38 million you attribute as a cost of relocating the Ameri power plant to Kumasi by government if you win the 2024 polls. The Energy Ministry has come out to contest this $38 million.
So what did they
where do you get that figure from?
So what did they say?
No, they said that the entire project itself does not cost that much. In fact,
how much does it cost?
We'll play now. There's the person who took over from you, who speaks for the Energy Ministry.
Nobody took over from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We spoke to him.
Okay.
before the commissioning, in fact, during the commissioning of this project in Kumasi, the Kumasi 1 thermal power plant, formerly known as the Ameri power plant. I want to take a look at this. The spokesperson for the Energy Ministry reacting to this $38 million you say cost the country in transporting the thermal plant from the western region to the Ashanti region, which you say you're going to investigate. Take a look.
Is it true that you are injecting $35 million just to transporting the Ameri plant from western region to the Ashanti region?
It is not true. Because the cost of the entire project is not even up to $35 million. But then clearly, I mean, we can understand the NDC. This whole thing about bringing Ameri, as it was then called, to Kumasi for power stability and, you know, addressing voltage issues. I don't know the problem the NDC has with this particular project, because, I mean, since we announced that we are coming to commission this project, there's been this hue and cry, and clearly you do not know where the issues are from. For example, they even talk about we renaming it and all of those things. I mean, if you look at the precedents, it is quite clear that just like we have in other places, we have 1 thermal power plant. I mean, we look at the name of the place and then we also look at the sequence. So if we name this as Kumasi 1 thermal power plant, it is just in sync with precedent.
So where did you get this $38 million from?
So, okay, so let me start first. Should I do this presentation as a body of just the whole American, or just that $38 million thing that you want me to address?
The body Ameri.
Okay, fantastic. So let's
zero in also on the fundamental part, because you are saying you're going to investigate. Yeah, so where did you get the figure from?
So you recall that in 2022, this whole issue of relocation started in 2022, where the initial figure that they had thrown out there was around $24 million. Then, at a meeting at Oak Plaza, the then Deputy Chief Executive of VRA, Obin Kenzo or something. In fact, the reason why I've made is that I've even brought, what they call it, the verbatim recording of the conversation. The verbatim, which I have here, which I'll share with you, and I tell you, and I asked the question specifically. I asked him on 2 things. I said, first, how much was the project going to cost? He indicated that, indeed, initially, yes, it was around 23 million, but now, based on the scoping and other things they did, it had moved to $34 million. $34 million. The chairman then, or the chairman...
Which year was this?
This is 2022. The venue was Oak Plaza.
Okay.
The chairman opened his mouth and said, $34 million, that is a lot. This is what Atacha said. And to this dawn, I decided to read the report, because usually at parliamentary committee level, beyond just the clerks doing that, we have the Hansa department recording it verbatim. So whatever you say, the question and answer. So it is here, and it was reported by Obin Kenzo. That's why we had indicated. And 2, they had sole sourced it and given it to Metilonus. You remember Metilonus? Does that name ring a bell in your ears?
The PDS deal.
Not the PDS, the renegotiated Ameri deal. You recall that the renegotiated Ameri deal that ended the political career of Boache Jaco. It was Metilonus that was behind it. It's the same company, and I remember that renegotiated deal. Myself and Kojo Poku were on the same side. I remember very clearly. Then he was a civil society. He worked closely with me to oppose it. You see, he worked closely with me to oppose it. Are you getting the point I'm making? And then, so...
Are you saying now he's...
Oh, no, but now he's a big man. So...
We're always on the same side.
That's why you guys inflated it by 800 million.
So, are you getting the point? Okay. Then that same company finds itself back now to the relocation of Ameri, and the figure moving from $24 million to $34 million. And I'm quoting and I'm using somebody that said, Obin Kenzo, then the deputy, I think he was the deputy chief executive or something, indicated that. and then gave, what do you call it, what's his name again? Gave us the company and said it was sole source. We asked for a breakdown of that. He promised that the following Monday, it was a weekend, the following Monday, he was going to submit the breakdown to us. As we speak today, that document has not come.
They'll never do it.
That document has not come. And so that's why we are saying that beyond just all the hula baloo and the commission and other things, this is a project that we will investigate and get to know what constituted the $34 million just to relocate it from Abuaze to what you are not even relocating all the plants. Out of the 10, you are only relocating 6 to Kumasi. So what went in and changed the figure to from $20-something million to about to $34 million? That's the first point. 2, you see.
Okay, the Obenkenzo I see here is Edward Echo Obenkenzo.
Kenzo.
Is VRA.
Yes.
Yes. It is indeed the case.
Yes. So no, I know what I'm talking about. And the venue, I know what I'm talking about because I personally asked the question.
Website
and if you look at it, after that, I'll share the document with you. If you look at the, I asked him that specific question. Now,
he's actually still the deputy
chief executive
of VRA.
VRA, okay, fantastic. So I'm quoting him. I'm quoting him for that. Now, the other thing I need to talk to you about is it just been as a matter of what do you call it, the project. Look, you recall that Ameri, when Ameri came on board, you had a lot of people talk about Ameri, about the fact that it was involved, the whole deal was based on corruption, rent seeking, and what have you. Indeed, a week ago or so, Kojo Poko did some write-up, and it was all over the, what do you call it, all over the platforms.
Yeah, I think I received
reiterating these points and saying that the name Ameri was so toxic that nobody should be associated with it. Now, fast forward, let me now give you something. I recall that when, and this, let's talk, because Kojo Poko has always been talking about technical. So let's go technical with this. So when Ameri, you know, generally sometimes you can have a normal IPP coming on board. You can have an emergency power plant that comes under emergency power agreement. You can also have a BOT that you build, you own, you operate, and you transfer. The Ameri deal was basically a BOT arrangement. The arrangement was that in 5 years, they were supposed to recover their capital investments. And then after that, they will do what? Hand over to the government of Ghana. And usually this arrangement is done when you do not have the initial capital outlay to be able to do it. So that was the arrangement. So when they started issuing talking about the fact that the deal was corrupted, it was shrouded in very funny and under dealings and other things. The then president decided to commission PwC, that's a PricewaterhouseCoopers, to do an audit, a value for money audit.
You mean your mama?
Yes, of the project. When they did the project, they compared about 4 or 5 parameters. They compared the composite tariff. They compared the capacity tariff. They compared the install capacity per cost. And they compared the IRR, you are counting the internal rate of return. These are the 4 things they did. What is this composite tariff? Composite tariff is associated with the fixed cost in putting up the infrastructure. And what they did was that they compared it to 9 comparable plants in Ghana. That had already, PPAs that have been signed in Ghana, 9 comparable plants. When they did the computation, Ameri had a composite tariff of 14.59 kilowatt hours. If you took these 9, their average was 14.94. It was higher than Ameri. Now, 2, they looked at the capacity tariff. The capacity tariff is basically the cost associated with generation, transmission, and distribution of the power. That is what the capacity tariff is. Now, on the capacity tariff, when they did, and usually when you are going to do this, remember that have indicated that if you look at Ameri was supposed to be 5 years. But ordinarily, for any generating plant, it has a lifespan of 20 years, 15, 20 years. So when you are actually going to do the capacity tariff, you need to spread it over the number of years, which is the 20 years. But because Ameri had to hand over the plant by 5 years, they will front load the recovery rate. So for example, if they were supposed to recover it at 20 years, they will shrink it to 5 years, but they must recover their cost. So to make a comparison between Ameri and the other distributing, comparable thermal plants, you have to levelize the period, the tenure. So instead of 5 years, so you will have to make it 20 years because they are all the same type of plant. So when you do it 20 years, you can then calculate their, their capacity tariff. I don't know whether I'm making sense.
Oh, very simple.
Yes.
We understand.
Yeah, you understand.
Yes.
So you have to do that. When they did that, Ameri was the lowest.
Was the lowest?
Was the lowest.
Published then.
Oh, I wrote an article 2017. I wrote a full article on that.
Bring out the report.
Then 3. They then looked at the installed capacity per cost. And this one is basically, you look at the total cost of the project and then the total capacity of the project. And you do a simple, so that you know per unit how much it costs. When they did that, Ameri was still the lowest. The last but not the least was they looked at the internal rate of return. Internal rate of return is a test of profitability. Is that not it? It's a test of profitability. Look, PURC's approved rate of return, internal rate of return, is about 9%. Ameri was doing 6.3, which was lower. So it meant that in terms of margins and other, usually they use a IRR to know as to whether I should go into a business or not. And most companies will look at a project and say, for our project, for our company, any project that does not give us an IRR of about say 10%, I won't do it. I get the point. Yes. Because they have a standard they put there. Even with that, the one that PURC approved, because PURC has said that if you are coming as an independent power producer and your IRR is above 9%, what it simply means is that they will not be ready to accept because it will be too expensive for the state. But Ameri had 6.3%. So if you look at all these factors suggested that Ameri was a very good deal. That is why when this government, when they were in opposition, indicated that they were going to investigate Ameri. It became a political issue. And they came. When they went to the negotiation, they realized that, look, they could not do anything about this thing because actually the facts on the ground, the facts on the paper that they were dealing with in the contract were far better. And if they were going to do anything about it, it was going to be dangerous. Then, but because they wanted to meet a political promise, they decided to go into it. And you know what they did? When they brought, with this same Metalonos that did the relocation, when they brought it, Kojo is here. It became, the renegotiated agreement was more expensive than the original agreement.
That's the one they increased 800 million. 800 million.
So it became more expensive than the original contract. And not only was it more expensive, they extended the tenure from 5 years to 6 years. That's what they did.
But the objective of the renegotiation was to actually reduce it. So how did it?
And so when it then went up, so that's where myself and my brother Kojo Poku, and then of course Bemboachi, we were all on the same side. So we then decided, look, we said that we were going to, and I remember this, the day of the renegotiation, they brought the thing to Parliament, was the day they were burying the late Vice President, Emisata. Indeed, they wanted to smuggle the document, so they knew that the NDC MPs were going to be at Emisata's funeral. And so while we were there, they brought the report to negotiate. So we were there when somebody called me on phone and said, Eddie, they brought the Ameri renegotiated thing and they're having a meeting. I had to run from International Conference Center to Parliament, to the meeting grounds, to go and sit in that and to oppose this thing. Now, quick one. When we finally exposed the limitations of this particular project, that's how Boache Jacko lost his job. One of the things, one of the saddest moments in my life was the fact that only Boache Jacko was the one who went. And I'll explain to you why. When he came to Parliament, he came with an executive approval. You know, usually with such projects, you either take it to cabinet for approval or you have an executive approval. So this came under an executive approval, which means that the president was fully aware of it.
Yes.
Now, this executive approval was signed by Asante Bidietu. Now, there are two things. Either when the president was firing Boache Jacko, There are two things. Either he himself, it was a clear indication that he himself didn't know what he was doing, because he was the one who said, I have approved it, and therefore take it to Parliament for them to also approve it. Either he didn't know, or he was not even aware that there was an executive approval. And so, I know we have had evidence of that. You know the letter that was written.
Can ever be the
No, let me give you an example. I'm going to give you an example. You remember when, I think 2 years ago, when the budget issue came, and then Mr. Speaker had indicated that, look, they needed to look at what do you call it, the allocation given to the judiciary and then the legislature, if you recall. Yeah. Then Asante Bediatuo wrote directly to the Mr. Speaker, saying that he could not alter the allocations, if you recall. That finally the president had to apologize. He wrote a letter directly to the Mr. Speaker apologizing and indicating that this was not with his express approval. And the majority leader had to come out to me. So there's evidence that Asante Bediatuo at one point or the other sometimes write letters without the knowledge of the president. So I am giving the president the benefit of the doubt.
You see, there's a difference between writing a letter without the knowledge of the president and actually issuing an executive approval for a particular agreement or otherwise. There are two different things.
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make...
the case that the president is not aware.
Yeah, so in the resignation...
So the point...
issue. So the sacking Boache... In sacking Boache Jaku, I remember very clear that he said that he was misled. He wasn't running.
Yes, exactly.
He said he was misled. So he was part of it. Yes, I think he was misled.
In agreeing and accepting that you've been misled does not necessarily mean that executive approval was issued without your knowledge. That will be very...
Yeah, so the point I'm no, so I see they needed to be politically correct. You know why? Because at that time the minority had said that he was part of the problem. He was part of the problem. And then when they were now making their point, they said that he was misled by, what they call it, the facts that were presented to him. But first of all, so the point I'm just...
800 million.
The fundamental thing was that they renegotiate... They renegotiate...
Yes.
They renegotiated... Oh, you come on.
You know the point.
So the renegotiated issue was this. Then you now have a situation... This is a project that you think that was a bad project. You decide to go to Ashanti region with this project. The relocation. Alfred, let me state it here very clear. I have nothing against the relocation because it makes technical sense. One.
Technically it makes sense.
Makes sense because, one, it reduces your losses, transmission losses, because you are not bringing the power closer to the consumers. Two, it improves your quality of voltage. So, you know, Ashanti region had this problem of just fluctuation. We were thinking that Bui could have helped it, because Bui is also around that area. And when I say area, I mean the northern part of Ghana. So we thought Bui could have helped it, but it was not helping. So with the relocation of these plants will support in the quality. So I don't have any problem with that. The place I have a problem with is the fact that a project that you yourself, you poo-pooed, you pick it up, take it to, what do you call it, Kumasi, and rename it. People say, oh, this is just Pierre, just renaming, what is the point? Let me quote my deputy communication director, officer for our party, Malik. Malik said something yesterday that was very instructive. He said that, look, if you have somebody who likes conducting naming ceremonies, you should learn how to give birth. Because if you don't give birth, you don't what? You don't name people. And basically, if you look at this project, you did not bring it. And because of the fact that he has this penchant for always renaming projects, he did that. And I'm getting distracted by this thing. And what do you call it? The part that we're saying was this. You know that Ashanti region for a very large time has always been complaining about the fact that government has not done anything for them. They saw this particular project as if it was a project that was meant for that, oh, we have brought a project to you, and it becomes part of a political value that they will make. And we were trying to expose the hypocrisy of it. And that's just the point I'm making. But basically, based on the facts on the ground.
Alfred, if you leave
no, hold on.
I'll finish my point. I'll finish. So I'll finish my submission.
I think that it was worth establishing a number of things. So getting to understand the reason why you question the cost of it, the details you have given is important. And that's why, Kojo, we need to know what has led to
well,
this
I
cost that have been put
but
up.
if you leave it with Bauer, he will make all the political
because he has the
That's
information.
The point I'm making.
Because you made reference to the fact that he was part of technical committees on some of these things. So he understands and he knows the information about what went into this. So it's worth hearing from him.
Well, but
now, at this point, yes, could you?
Let me explain. You see, there is always a saying that good is the enemy of great. The reason we say good is the enemy of great is that whenever we think that something is good, we accept it and we don't want to excel for better. I agree with my brother Edward Bauer. And Mr. Bauer, Honorable Bauer, me and you are always on the same side though. We've never departed the sides. We are always on the same side on all issues. You know me, in 2015, 2014, you can play all the tapes with me on Alfred on various programs. I actually supported that Mary deal because at that time I said that if you go to the market without any money and somebody gets one hand over you, it's a business transaction and you lost out. It does not negate the fact that it was a bad deal. The fact that somebody got one over you in business doesn't make it a bad deal. It doesn't mean that it's a good deal, sorry. You see, you keep using words like internal rate of returns, and at the time when you do analysis of existing plans and blah, blah, blah. When most of our mothers and fathers and sisters go to China and they see a product and they realize that that product is $1 in China, but in Ghana it's 60 cedis. They quickly buy it, come to Ghana, and the cost of landing that product in Ghana is probably 18 cedis. But because the existing product sells in Ghana for 60 cedis, they will also sell it for 55 cedis, just reducing it by 5 cedis. It doesn't mean that it is a good deal that the person is giving Ghanaians. It means that by business, he is also trying to make the best out of what he can. It doesn't make it the best. And that is the comparison you are making. The existing plans that were in Ghana at the time that you guys were trying to compare America with, those were negotiated badly. Those plans, what were the plans at the time? We only had TICO and TAPCO. These are old plans that have been here for years. The only time that we did some of these PPAs with thermal plants before America came on is the likes of Asogli and all these long-term infrastructure projects. The America plant at the time was meant to be an emergency power, something that can come in quickly with little civil engineering and little work and give Ghanaians power. We know the facts, and nobody can dispute these facts, that if we had gone directly to as $220 million. That's the fact. Nobody.
Okay.
We agree that GE would take time in making sure that those machines were made to your specification. So under the emergency situation, it was not possible to buy directly from GE. And again, we didn't have the money to now say that GE, we are paying. So the America transaction happened. But America themselves also did not have the machines. And it's a fact that the people who had the machine was Miscellaneous, Metka, a Greek company. And they published it on their website that they are coming to Ghana with their 10 GE machines for $360 million. It's a fact. Nobody can dispute that. So what everybody complains about is that you can do all the explanation. You can say all the things that you wanted to say. All we are saying is that there was a procurement of power which came into Ghana at $510 million. But the company that came into Ghana to do the work, Metka, Miscellaneous, only basically gave that machine out for 5 years at $360 million. So somebody, the middleman, made away with $160 million.
I see.
That's all we are saying.
But talk about the middleman and how much it's costing the Ghanaian people and the middleman because you raised the element of...
problem. That's why I said that. You see, when you take it from that angle, Ghanaians will never get a better deal. Because I'll give you an example. Look, some of the capacity charges that we gave to Car Power, AXA, and some of these companies, they couldn't get that from the countries they came from.
But could you,
Car Power capacity that... Say that again.
What was the renegotiation? If you talk about, if we take it from that angle, the Ghanaians will never get a better deal. What was the renegotiated deal that you, I mean, I'm talking about the MPP, went to renegotiate a better deal for us, the Ghanaian people, looking at the fact that the cost increased.
The Ejaku one or the
Ejaku one that we are seeing now, documents indicating the cost went up to about $800 million.
No, but the Ejaku one never went through. It was the Amewu one that was done. The Ejaku one never went through. The Ejaku one was basically aborted. And at the time when it was aborted, like Edward Bauer has rightfully said, we all fought against it and thought it was a badly negotiated deal. So it was aborted, but the Ejaku one never went through. But what I keep saying is that two wrongs does not make it right. The fact that the NDC-led administration at the time gave Ghanaians a bad deal, and the fact that the Addison Committee and all those people went ahead and was going to give Ghana a bad deal and it was stopped, does not negate one another. Look, I have said that if we wanted the best out of this Ameri, what we should have done was a commission of inquiry, not what they did with Addison being the chairman and all those Vicky Bright thing they did. For me, I was 100% against it.
I see.
I think if we wanted to tell Ghanaians the truth, we should have done a commission of inquiry. A lot will have come out, and I, Kojupoku, would have gone in front of that committee and given a statement, because there are certain things I know that, because look, there are some of the people that when the Addison Committee was formed, the very people who were part of the Ameri transaction during the NDC were the very people we have put together under the Addison Committee. How are you going to get any truth out of the matter when the very people who did the 510 are the very people you've assembled under the Addison Committee?
I see.
So I said that if Ghanaians were to be given the truth, we should have done a commission of inquiry. We would have gotten more out of it, and people would have gone to jail. Recommendation for jail time would have given by the inquiry based on the information that was on the ground. But let's move on and discuss this issue of the relocation. Look, my brother Bauer have said clearly that, look, it is not a matter of the technical issue, but the most important thing when people talk about cost of transporting the plant, what happened? I honestly think that Edward Bauer and his committee should not, Honorable Edward Bauer and his committee should not wait to come into power to investigate this thing. They have subpoena powers as a committee of parliament. They should call VRA to come in front of the subcommittee and basically interrogate them on the cost, because I'm interested in the cost. Everybody is interested in the cost, because I saw miscellaneous at the time when they were trying to get miscellaneous to do this thing. I saw $10 million. And that's the time that the minister said that they wanted a guarantee of $10 million for miscellaneous to do it. And VRA senior workers went on demonstration, wrote letters and said that they can do it themselves. So it was given to VRA to do. So what Honorable Edward Bauer is talking about is the time when they were trying to give it to miscellaneous. But now, when that was aborted, VRA was asked to do it from their own internally generated fund. And this project was done with that VRA money. So I am interested in knowing the exact cost of what it cost to build the enclave and the transportation. We've all seen the video of what has been on social media that went in. Congratulations, yes, and the Ghanaians who made this happen. But the far and most important thing is that how much did it cost Ghanaians? And we all want to know. It's not only Edward Bauer who wants to know. So don't wait to come into power and say that you want to come into power to know. No, today, tomorrow, on Monday, you can go to Parliament and ask the committee to call VRA and ask them for those documents. They have no option but to give it to you in Parliament. Okay? But the point is that if we want to know that it is a cost, it's not a cost of transporting, because on social media, people think that, oh, just putting the generators on the cars to be moved from Takrady to Kumasi, it is what is costing 35 million. No. You've seen the video, you've seen all the engineering work, the civil engineering, the electrical engineering, all the work that went on to build it. They built structures, they actually built offices, did the concrete work and everything. We've seen the video. That is what they are saying that cost that much. I don't know how much it costs, but it's of public interest to know how much it costs. If it's not forthcoming, there is right to information. I mean, we can write to them through right information to ascertain, and we'll get it. So that one is not somebody waiting to come into power. It's something that everybody is interested in knowing.
So you support that call for at least the establishment of exactly how much it costs the taxpayer?
100%. 100%. Why would nobody look? I'm a Ghanaian like you. You see, I don't know why all of a sudden people think that the Kojo Poku of civil society who always want the right thing.
Well, it is your pronouncement. It is your pronouncement that sometimes gets people confused as to who you were and who you are now.
I correct you. No, with the pronouncement where I correct you and I correct Martin Kpebu for calling the vice president a crook, that is what makes my pronouncement any bad.
Well, since you talk about
everybody who knows Martin, Alfred, you've interviewed me for over 15 years. You know I don't stand for certain things. You can't change Kojopo. It doesn't matter who I'm a chairman for or what party I belong to. Every time that I sat on TV3 for the last 15 years, I was MPP blue blood 100%. But I'm dead in the middle on these issues. It doesn't mean that I've changed. It means that I stand for the truth. So 100% we want to know the cost of the VIA project. Why would we not want to know?
Well, since you talk about correcting me, I don't know exactly what you meant by that, but if it's about what Martin Kpebu said, if it's about I'm coming.
You should let Martin know.
Relax, don't worry. I'm coming to that. Don't worry. If it's about what Martin Kpebu said and what you said earlier, indicating that he said, we have the video. I'm going to recall this because yes, I mean sometimes things slip through. We may not get it right every time, every now and then. But for this particular issue of ensuring that what is said is within a particular context, and when it is outside of it, I exercise that right as the host of this program to call people to retract or apologize. If you follow this show, I do it the best way possible. So since you said that Martin Kpebu made a statement and you categorically indicated that he called the vice president a thief, and I allowed it, this is what he said exactly, for the benefit of our viewers, so that the people who are lying to you will not take what you have said hook, line, and sinker and think that that's the truth. This is it.
Involved in, representing some people, so I understand a bit about the transaction. What we are saying is that, listen, this thing is not about private sector or public. It's about the human beings. You have crooks. Baumia sat down there and changed the guarantee, right, from bank to insurance. And it's been one of the big problems. So it's the human beings. It's the integrity deficit. It's not about public or private. Look at China. What didn't the US and Co say? Look at China. You know how much China, the Chinese government is involved in business?
Well, so that's just for the benefit of our viewers. At no point did Martin Kpebu call the vice president a thief.
But hold on, he said we have proof. You heard the video. He said we have proof.
Anyway, you are...
He mentioned Baumia's name.
So, no, was there a direct reference to the vice president? Okay. Well, anyway.
Basically, I think that maybe my friend Kojo Poku misheard. So that is normal. Sometimes we mishear things. And so these things can happen. So let's not put him on the spot. He's my friend, so... And this morning he's too hot.
Well, put me on the spot.
Okay, that's okay. Now let me bring in Mr. Boachi. That's okay.
At the end of it, you are telling me that you're putting me on the spot.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Boachi on this matter. Hold on, Mr. Boachi. This issue on the, I think we've settled this matter. Yes, the relocation of Mary. I mean, there's been clear establishment that things could have been done differently. The element of the cost is one that we're all interested in. There's some consensus on this platform that we need to establish how much it costs us. But for the technicalities, there's some sound reasoning in that. From where you sit, would this serve the generality of the purpose for which this movement was made? Quickly, before we go to the next issue.
No, I think it's a short-term bandage on a bigger problem, where we don't have a stronger transmission infrastructure, which we've been hoping that we could build and strengthen the system. So rather than strengthen the transmission infrastructure to be able to wheel power, we think that relocating power plants to Kumasi is the solution. Meanwhile, we are even exporting power all the way to Burkina. So are we going to build power plants along the border as well to be able to send the power to them? I think there are technical ways of addressing problems, and our advocacy has focused on ensuring that at all times the decisions we take are very optimal and they make sense with the resources that we do have. And we have indicated time and again that this relocation was extremely unnecessary at this time, particularly when the under recoveries in the sector are extreme and costing us billions every year. You know, it would have been, it's certainly a terrible decision to add on to that burden. But essentially, that's what the politicians have done, to add on to the cost. As of now, we're still looking for how much it cost us to do the relocation. The initial attempt was going to cost us about $71 million in 3 years to do that. That didn't happen. And we had, you know, VRA wanted to do it by itself, but also has other contractors in the mix. So we will get a sense of how much that relocation is costing us. But on the gas side, where we are moving the gas from where Ameri was and was accessible, you know, to the existing gas infrastructure, it's going to cost us almost $2 billion plus in 16 years to be able to pay off the capacity reservation that we have with Gensa. And you recall our advocacy on that project and thought that it was a reckless decision to have done at this particular time without clear recourse to how much it's going to cost Gensa to do that infrastructure, but just to pay them those billions of dollars. I mean, if you wanted to simply put power plant in Kumasi and you have a cash flow certainty of $2 billion, you could even build a nuclear plant that will give us thousands of megawatts in Kumasi, and not, you know, put a gas pipeline and then relocate an existing power plant at such an exorbitant, if not reckless, cost to the state and to the people of Ghana. But that is what the politics demanded, and they have done it. But all of us are going to have to pay for such a decision that has been made, rather than thinking through the problem carefully and addressing them. And you will hear the ministry or the minister say that it was Gridco's decision. If it was Gridco's decision to spend $2 billion plus to build power plants, then they don't even qualify to be advising the minister himself on those kinds of decisions, right? How do you optimize $2 billion when you have it today? That is the critical decision, and not just saying that we need generation. You need generation at what cost? It should be part of the decision making. It should be part of the thinking process of improving the grid. But beyond that also, I mean, the gas we have, the reason why there is doomsday in Ghana today is because we don't have enough gas. So sending another plant to Kumasi doesn't mean that you have more gas to be able to fix the problem, right? So it's the same gas that you're going to move, deny other plants, and be able to send it to Kumasi and pay transmission charge for the gas that will be sent to Kumasi to be able to generate power. So the cost of generation essentially has gone up. And in the coming days, we'll be doing the numbers to show by how much, you know, that would have gone up by this singular decision, for which we would have to adjust the tariff to be able to absorb that cost, and also deny some plants, either in the west or in the east, of, you know, the gas that they need to be able to generate power.
I see. So talk about the gas to generate power. So the cost element still comes in here. All things being equal, going forward, is going to cost more, and that would also influence some tariff increment.
No, but the infrastructure is not the politicians who are going to pay for it. It's the people who are going to pay the $2 billion plus for the relocation and the infrastructure that has been developed. All right. And that's what we thought, that you do first things first. Even if you had $2 billion to do it, which you know, investments within the power sector today is more critical to ensure that we can stop, you know, subsidizing the power sector and at the same time improve infrastructure. And we thought that by building the transmission, a robust transmission infrastructure from Kumasi to Pokuase, would have improved the flow of power from all over the country to the middle belt, and also rationalizing the use of the Bui power plant, which is already in the middle belt, all right, making sure that they can generate the minimum that they can all year round, and not put pressure on it to generate more than it can do or should be doing as a regular baseload plant. That would have been useful to stabilize the power in the middle belt as well. But it required the thinking that nobody wants to do, all right, but just pumping in the political settlement angle to be able to do the kind of investments that we are getting committed to.
Bambache, thank you very much for joining us here on Key Point on this matter. And remind you that we're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. We're also live on a number of radio stations across the country. This is the
Alfred.
key point. The next issue, no.
Alfred, can I quickly say something on what Bambache said, please?
In a minute, quickly.
Yes, in a minute, please. I mean, Ben made the point of this 2 billion. Look, we are all worried about the agreement that was signed by GNPC, and he's right to point it out. What I'm trying to assure everybody is that that agreement has to be novated to Ghana Gas, who is now the gas aggregator. And in terms of all these concerns being addressed by the civil society, ASEP, and other institutions, that concern will be looked at. We don't think that, yes, the 2 billion he mentioned is not money that has been spent. It's money that will be spent over a period of time if the agreement signed between GENSA and GNPC is not looked at and certain things corrected. So there is that issue of novating the agreement from GNPC to Ghana Gas, but in doing that, we will look at the terms under which that was done, because we all agree that the terms were not the best.
Okay, thank you for that.
But you see, again,
before we go,
this is a sector that has been managed as if the people doing it are amateurs, and I'll explain to you why. The same government over 2 years, 3 years have changed aggregators from Ghana Gas to GNPC back to Ghana Gas, and sometimes you realize that depending on whoever has been given the decision to be the aggregator of gas, they then assume these particular agreements. Look, I think that, and myself, Ben in particular, we've had discussions on this issue of the agreement between GNPC and that of, GENSA, which is a private company. And it is only fair that we really investigate this further. And I am happy that Kojo Poku is saying that they were going to look at it. They should better look at it, because I have had situations where even my party has had the occasion to address it and talk about the shortest end of the stick being handed over to Ghana through GNPC in that particular agreement. So this is an agreement that we should all be interested in and see how we can investigate it and get it properly done.
Indeed. Thank you. You're still live here on Key Point. Now, the next issue, which is related, in fact, I'm just going to round up on that matter about the PURC, the fine of over 5.8 million cedis slapped on the board of ECG. The board members, in fact, the lawyers of ECG and the board have all responded to this, questioning the locus of PURC in going on this path. And they have indicated that they denied natural justice of even being heard. That is for the ECG to prove. But this is an issue that we're going to get into. Does that take away the fundamental concerns that especially PURC itself has raised? We'll have a conversation on this matter, because the ECG has indicated they would head to the courts if PURC does not backtrack on this fine that they have slapped on the board. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us. Another set of guests will be joining us on Key Point. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break.
Discover the Arabian charm and the Emirates aboard the Celestial Journey cruise ship on an extraordinary voyage to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sebaniyas Island, Qatar, Oman, and Bahrain from the 20th to the 29th of December 2024. This package includes an 8-day cruise with drinks, meals, visas, return flights, onboard internet, hotel accommodation, excursions, transfers, and travel insurance. Call us now on 0308-251-055 to secure your cabin with $1,000 deposit and pay the rest in installments. Life is better at sea. Experience it.
2, 3, can we do it together? You don't feel that vibe. I don't feel that vibe. Energy. You don't feel that vibe.
Everything fresh, crisp, and tight on the road to Telesong Ghana Music Awards 2024. Lego!
Road to the Telecel Ghana Music Awards. Show Saturdays at 1 p.m. on TV3.
Telecel, connecting energies.
It's me you are looking for. I can see it in your smile. Really?
Yo, and then.
I won't tell my guy Frank, you know the sing alone. Me, I dey watch the baby too. She's loving.
She's what?
Loving.
Everything about her.
Reman kakra, egamai kakra, yosom kakra. She mess up my mind. How much a guy need to take you on a date?
See, me I dey feel you. You feel that vibe. But the money you dey call, I be street. I no get that money. My money be 500 Ghana.
Date Rush shows every Sunday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it. Date Rush is sponsored by Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil and Napa Foods.
Feel moisturizer.
Obuasi Bitters.
Close-Up Complete Fresh Protection, Geisha Moringa, and Geisha Black Soap.
Deluxy Acrylic Paint.
Adonko.
Remy Spices.
Stop Cough from Ernest Chemist.
Dano Milk.
Kiss Panache and Kiss Drinks.
Living inside my head, rent free, baby. I was saying I hope and say, oh, go you are living inside my head.
If you had to buy an art piece, what would be the highest amount you're willing to pay, or maybe even the lowest? Will $4,000 be a bit too much for you, or maybe $3.2 million? But mind you, this is made with so much love, with fine detail. And that is why today we're focusing on the art industry. And we have an amazing gallerist who's joining us from Enna Gallery.
This is very hand-woven work. There's no machine involved.
Hand-woven?
Yes.
But he's not the only one. In actual fact, we're going to be blown away by a 5-year-old who's already being referred to as a little doctor. She knows so much when it comes to the medical field. Common vitamins and their scientific names. Vitamin A.
Retinol.
Vitamin B5.
Physia.
Vitamin B6.
Anemia.
Vitamin B7.
Neurititis.
Hey, we are still going. And I was blown away. So you have to watch this episode no matter what.
What is the medical term for common cold?
Coryza.
Hey, what did she say? Coryza.
Coryza.
Is that a medical term? Is it not flu?
Coryza.
In case you haven't heard, she's Ajua Lil Dog. You can check her out on social media, and that should give you enough reason to want to watch the Day Show right here on TV3 this Sunday at 3 p.m.
The Day Show, Sundays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
Talented, she knows her worth. She's cultural, a woman of substance. And when she walks, the world will stop and stare. She's a woman. So strong, she is courageous and fearless. She knows her worth. She's great.
so much joy, love and inspiration with Sika, Helen and Regina on the Ladies Circle. This and every Saturday at 6 p.m.
The Ladies Circle shows Saturdays at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad, MTN.
Welcome back. This is Key Point on TV3. We are live on 3FM 92.7. Also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. And this week, the PURC decided to take their regulatory muscle to another layer by slapping the ECG board with some over 5.8 million cedis fine. And the legality of it has been questioned, essentially, not just by the ECG board or the Jubik Mahama himself, the MD of ECG, but some lawyers as well, Richmond Roxon and a few other persons. Also joining us for this conversation, lawyer Kingsley Amwakobwedu is a private legal practitioner, but also a member of the NPP communication team. It's good to have you, Counsel. Good morning.
Good morning to you too.
Great.
I'm glad to be here.
Great. Now, let's take a look at this. This is the PURC justifying the fine on the ECG board. First of all, one, for failure to comply with the 3-day statutory notice required under Regulation 39 of LI 2413. The Commission, in accordance with Regulation 45 of LI 2413, hereby imposes a regulatory charge of 3,000 penalty units on ECG for each of the 163 breaches, amounting to 5,868,000 Ghana cedis. They also go on to say the Commission has determined that having regard to the nature of ECG's ownership and business, the imposition of the penalty of this 5,868,000 on ECG would be counterproductive, as payment from ECG's revenue would have a rebounding adverse effect on quality of service and consumers who pay tariffs to the company. So that's why they now decided that because of this, in the interest of justice and to protect the interest of consumers, the Commission shall hold the board members of ECG who were in office between January 1 to January 8 to March 18 liable for the payment of this 5,868,000 Ghana cedis. These board members were at all material times responsible for providing strategic direction to ensure the provision of safe, adequate, efficient, reasonable, and non-discriminatory service to consumers. That's the reason why PURC says we're not going to charge the ECG as an institution, to the extent that these board members were at all material times responsible for providing strategic direction to ensure the provision of safe, adequate, efficient, reasonable, and non-discriminatory service to consumers. They must be held liable for all of these failures as well. Now, after that, ECG, together with its lawyers, have reacted and responded to this fine by the PURC. Let's go to the composite responses that ECG puts out. Essentially, what ECG is saying in their response to PURC is that the Commission's order imposing regulatory charges on the members of the board is unlawful, null and void, as the same is without jurisdiction. By this order, the PURC has unlawfully clothed itself with the powers of the High Court and imposed a sentence on the board members. Contrary to the rules of natural justice, the Commission failed or refused to communicate its feedback on the reports to ECG, but went ahead to impose the stiffest of sanctions as if ECG had completely failed to respond to its initial orders. as an administrative body, the PURC is required to act fairly and reasonably. But this is what the ECG, in fact, is saying. Now, I want to start off with you, Martin Pebo. They talk about the catch water flow mechanism and so on. But would you say that the PURC exercised its legal right within its remit in slapping these sanctions on the board?
Not the board members themselves.
The board members.
Right? Yeah, so personally, holding them personally liable so far is not something we can defend. You see, that's the painful truth. You know, prior to the lawyers for the board members coming out and the ECG MD coming out, you know, we were all very excited, at least most of us, that PURC had stood tall. They had risen to the occasion, because prior to that, we felt being bullied and being disrespected by energy minister and then the ECG, not giving us a timetable and telling us we are evil, we should go bring our own timetable, etc. So this PURC fine, you know, kind of gave us some hope, excitement. We had a lot to celebrate. That even if ECG was not going to comply, at least the regulator had spoken. So it was sweet. But now that the legal issues have been raised, then you find that, honestly speaking, it's difficult to justify the PURC decision. Look at it this way. Let's use the easier one. And if we discuss one which can dispose of the matter, we don't need to do the other arguments. You see, the easy thing is this. Look at the sequence of events. PURC wrote to ECG. You didn't write to the board members in their personal capacity. You didn't write to, let's say, Mr. Abenbiri, Honorable Abenbiri, to say, we think that you were derelict in your duties as a director of ECG. You didn't set good policies. You didn't see to the implementation of good policies leading to these breaches, etc. PURC didn't make an accusation against the directors personally. You directed that to the company, and the company sought to respond. So you cannot then, in giving a decision, somersault and arrive at holding the directors personally responsible. No, not enough indications had been given, not enough opportunity had been given that this is what they intended to do. So you see that you find in one of the pages, after all the analysis, then in one fell swoop, in the interest of justice and for the protection of consumers. I'm like, oh, I bet that one, yes. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. We have laws.
So this is in the interest of justice and to protect the interests of consumers.
Yes.
The Commission shall hold the board members of ECG who were in office between January 1 to 18th March liable for the payment of this 5,868,000 cedis. That's one of the points that PURC makes.
Yes, that's page 7. Page 7 of the order. It's difficult to justify. It's difficult. As I said, the main thing, you see the lawyers raising the points. Where is the opportunity that was given for the board members to answer personally? They were answering, and when we make this distinction because in law, the company, ECG, is separate from the board members. Of course, we know the company is artificial. It's not a human being. It takes human beings to run the company. Yes.
But how about this attempt at being looked at as one to remove the veil?
No, but
in company law.
So if you are going to do it, not in these circumstances. So because PURC is not a court, then that's how we still come back to the point that let those individuals answer properly. Even in law, at the time you're going to remove the veil, right? It must be so clear evidence that, right, those persons involved, the directors, committed fraud, okay? They were using the company as a sham,
right,
etc. This one, so where have you shown that the board member, of course, we think there's a lot of things going on on ECG, going on there, right? Yes, but that's another matter. At least the PURC didn't go into to say that, hey, ECG, board directors, you are doing X, Y, Z. A lot of rot which we have heard, and it didn't start today. Even Kojo Poku, who is talking, you know, he has a petition of the OSP concerning ECG, some procurements of meters in 2016. Yeah, that's something I hope the OSP will go in. Yeah, Mr. Benbri, some of your people are involved. Let's go into it because we have to hold public officers accountable. No, you can't steal from the state like that. You can't be allowed to do procurement breaches and go. So he, Kojo Poku, if he asks him, he has a petition at the OSP on matters against ECG, former board members, directors, etc., right? Yes, but that's not the matter we are dealing with right now. In this particular case, you didn't say Kelly Gajepo and Co. personally took ECG resources or they intentionally, you know, put out the lies, etc. You didn't make personal allegations against them personally. They were answering in their corporate name, right? And once you haven't shown that, you don't come and all of a sudden just say you've lifted the veil and you are holding directors. That's not how it's done. And also it tells you that, look, going forward, PURC will have to strengthen their hearing processes, right? Streamline them, make them more fair, make them fairer so that they can have proper hearings, okay? Yes, because this one, you don't see that much of the adjudication. You see, so you don't, there's a lot to be done. But of course, so let's tell PURC, I think, yes, they did well, albeit they didn't do well in law. But practically, it's achieved some results. At least, it's given us opportunity to what? Hold the officers accountable, although it's turned out that it's not exactly legal. So it's a good attempt. Even me, what I'm lauding PURC for is the fact that they had that courage. It's that courage that is lacking in Ghanaians. That's how come we are in this quagmire. It's that courage, that conviction, looking beyond yourself. That is what is lacking. So that's how come we will support PURC that, yes, they did well, so they should look at it, backtrack, and then, you know, come again, and perhaps look at how to improve their law. But currently, holding the board members personally responsible in these circumstances, the manner in which they started, we cannot legally support that.
Even if it's in the interest of justice?
No, not at all. Interest of justice in itself, no. It's a matter that, if you look at the British jurisprudence, they don't lift the corporate veil just in the interest of justice. But Ghana, we have a Supreme Court decision that used interest of justice, I think Moko versus Kuma. So when you go to law school, there's one of the experts in the area, Seth Asante, he was at Bentienchil, he would ask you that, so when you read the English cases, do you see lifting the corporate veil in the interest of justice? Do you see that there? You don't see. So how come Ghana, our Supreme Court has lifting? Well, of course, Ghana is a different jurisdiction, etc. But it means that the people we copied from, they don't exactly say you are lifting corporate veil in the interest of justice. Don't forget, when you deal with matters of interest of justice, they will tell you that you're entering, you know, uncharted territory. Is quite a slippery area. Public policy reasons, those things. So for now, yes, if PURC wants to do that, look, they need new rules to be clear. Because, you see, the other point we should make is that if you look at section, is it 45, talking about offenses and penalties, you see it expressly saying that you can hold individuals responsible, right? But that one has to do with criminal offenses. Criminal offenses. You haven't dealt with administrative penalties, and the two are different. You see it? Yes, when you are dealing with criminal offenses, they've stated it categorically that they can hold individuals responsible, that's the board members, etc. But this particular one, so offenses, that's section 42 of the PURC Act, Act 538, it deals with issues of holding the company or the corporate body responsible, holding the individuals responsible, etc. That's board members and those. Right, but that is in the context of a criminal offense. And when we say a criminal offense, when somebody is convicted, you get a criminal record, etc. Right? So here, PURC was not dealing with a criminal offense. They were doing it in the context of administrative penalties, etc. So this is a civil aspect. So you need a clear statement, just like the way 42 is very clear that when it comes to offenses, you can hold the board members. Maybe we should just read a bit of it for emphasis. This is why it says, 42.1. where an offense under this act or the regulations is committed by a body or by a member of a partnership or other firm, every director or officer of that body, corporate, of that body corporate, or a member of the partnership or other person concerned with the management of the public utility commits that offense. You see it? Commits that offense. And we are saying that here we are talking about an offense, a criminal offense. You go on for the avoidance of doubt. Look, for the avoidance of doubt that you are talking about a criminal offense, look at it. They go on blah, blah. It's liable on conviction. So they are saying that, and the person is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 500 penalty units for the offense. And B, is liable in addition to the payment of compensation. No, I'm interested in C. C says, a person shall not be convicted under subsection 1 when it is proved to the satisfaction of the High Court. So you see that when it's a crime, it's going to the court. But if you are dealing with it administratively, then copy the same thing and modify to show that administratively you can hold the board members responsible. Then it's easy. This is a principle we call legality, the principle of legality. And if you read the principle of legality, you know where we even got it from. It's philosophers who started debating legality. This thing that state the law clearly before you punish someone. So law even copied this principle from philosophy.
I see.
So it's of antiquity. It's not, I mean, like the 10 or 100-year principle that you can just shanter somewhere. No, 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 no. It dates centuries back, where even law went and borrowed this thing from philosophy. And so for us now, we hold the principle of legality very clearly. I mean, very dearly. So you want to hold somebody responsible for an action, make sure that the law is very clear that we are going for Mr. X. But you don't start that you are dealing with the company, then last minute you just somersault and land on the individuals. That one is difficult to defend. But we must laud PURC for the attempt.
Could I bring Kojo Poko on this matter, and he has to leave us. So Kojo, a quick input on this issue, because you see, the intent, as Martin Bebo established, is PURC as to trying to do its job of a regulator, but then again, it falls flat in the face of the law. But the intent there, getting ECG to be held responsible for some of the infractions that we have seen. Kojo?
Yes, it's a good thing, and it's basically a regulator trying to do its work in the right direction. Look, one of the things that I want to correct, and is a notion that the likes of Honorable Bawa has and his people have been putting out there, that, oh, the ECG board members have been fined because they refuse to put out a doomsday timetable. That is something that we should all try and correct. That is not true. The reason they have been fined is that per the PURC Act, you are supposed to give customers 3 days notice for any planned maintenance. So we're talking about areas where ECG said that they had planned maintenance on these transformers, and that's where there were outages, and PURC asked them that they should bring forth information to show that when they did the planned maintenance, where was the 3 days notice that they gave to customers. And that, if you look at the complied and non-complied, they did not comply or give that information, and as a result, the board members the board members were fined. But as our able lawyer Martin Bibu has explained, which is an area of his expertise, we can all appreciate that it's something that you can try, but legally you cannot impose it, because it's a company of limited liability. It means that it's difficult to now go and hold directors liable, especially when you've not even given them fair hearing. So I think that, look, but going forward, I think one of the things that some of us are looking at with interest is it possible to now introduce regulations or framework or policies in the sector where directors can be held responsible when they serve on some of these boards. So those are an interesting conversation going forward.
Yeah, I'm sure you've lived abroad. This thing about, what are you saying? That anytime ECG wants to do maintenance, we should be in Dumso. When you live in America, is that what happens? You mean in America, they don't do Dumso, they don't do maintenance, or you go to the UK? Yeah, because throughout the day, it's been like anytime there's maintenance, yes. So you have alternate generators. So when this one is down, you power the other one. What are you saying?
Okay. No, my brother, I do not make the law. The law PLC's regulation says that if you are going to do maintenance, you should give the customer 3 days notice before any planned outages. I don't make the law.
No.
I'm not saying that it's the best.
It's not maintenance.
It's outage. It's outage.
We live in America. Kingsley, you lived in the UK for decades. Is that how UK, when they are doing maintenance, do you experience doing so?
I think you should allow Kojo Poku to make his point. His point is that.
Gentlemen.
His point is that.
Why are we bringing in the? Why are we?
Because we've lived there. We know the difference. That's where we are aspiring to go. And you are
aspiring to go. I'm not aspiring to go.
I mean, get to that level. You've come from there, so that's what I mean.
I think we just ask the question. I think he's responding. Indeed. Thank you.
Let him respond.
Thank you.
We all aspire. Look, one of the things that Alfred, can I go on?
Yes.
One of the things that my committee looked at is to basically be able to put policies and framework in place to give Ghanaians affordable, reliable power. That's all we all aspire to. As a Ghanaian, that's what we want, uninterrupted power. In fact, one of the KPIs that PLC gives the utility companies is that they are not supposed to have a certain number of outages in a year, and they are judged per the KPIs given by PLC. So we all aspire to get there. But since we are not there yet, the law of PLC says that before you do planned maintenance, you have to give the customer 3 days notice. So I don't know why that even is coming up whereby UK and the US and all that. What are we talking about?
Very much for this input. I know you have to easy leaving us now. Kojo Poku, thank you. Is the chair of the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia campaign team, the energy committee of that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia campaign team. Yes, it's about a quick one, because that bit about this period that was given for maintenance and so on, because you see, we cannot continue to explain what people go through away with the fact that it's a maintenance situation, and so there's no justification for people's concerns. Just a minute on this, so that we'll move on to the ECG board.
Oh, okay. So you want me to just on the 3 minute
yes.
on the
that 3 day period of justification.
The provision is that, remember that you have a contract with the person that he pays his bills, and then you supply him with what do you call it, power. In ECG, in PURC's framework, they say that look, if you are unable to provide the person power, you must notify the person latest 3 hours before the outage. It's for the person to be able to plan his life around it. And so if the outage is as a result of maintenance, the person must be informed at least 3 hours before that. If the outage is as a result of deficit in generation, the person must, be informed about that. So that's the minimum that you should be able to make. And that is a standard that is given to all the utilities to be able to do. In fact, if you come even to the water sector, you remember that PURC also regulates water. They also have those benchmarks they give to them that they must meet these particular benchmarks. So basically, that is the arrangement. But you see, there was a question that Martin was talking about that had to do with the fact that if you go into maintenance, does not necessarily mean you should put people out. Okay. All utilities build redundancies within their system. Okay. So whether it is the generation part, you have a redundancy, and usually the redundancy is what they call the reserve margin. And in Ghana, it is calculated as 18% of your your total capacity. Then with the distribution and the transmission, they always have redundancy. So that, for example, they are supposed to do work on, say, one particular transformer, but that will affect maybe, let's say, Ajirengano. They can move the load from Ajirengano and put it on another, transformer, whilst they work on Ajungano's own. So you don't actually go off. So they build redundancies around these things. So it shouldn't be the case. And PURC has always been talking to them, and it's part of the investments that is factored into the tariff. Because in the tariff, that's why they give you benchmarks. In the tariff, in your proposal, you tell them that I intend investing on, say, 10 transformers. And with the 10 transformers, it will improve my efficiency, say, by 1%. PURC says, fine. That 10%, the cost of it, is factored into the tariff for you to be able to get that investment. However, they then give you the benchmark that you must reduce your inefficiency by 1%. I don't know whether I'm making sense. So when they give you the tariff approval, when your tariff is approved for the end user to pay, they would have included that in your tariff. And that's why some of us have challenges with how the utilities behave, particularly the way they behave towards we, like a consumer.
Okay.
Because I'm paying for your investments and I'm not getting the reward for it. And when I'm not even getting the reward for it, I am even not treated well, I'm treated shabbily.
Okay, so is the PURC it's legally wrong in doing what they did, but from the perspective of their regulatory as to a responsibility, as in functioning, could they have done this, as in trying to hold the ECG responsible for all of these deals, without necessarily resorting to this legal path?
Alfred, I came here to strongly not be diverted from this legality and other things.
Well, but
because
it's important.
I'm coming.
It's important
because there's a major thing that has been exposed,
which is
in this PURC's findings that we should be discussing. Look, I agree that the law is the law. If the law says that, because if you look at the PURC, they say you can charge the utility, but not the persons. So I agree. So that 5.8 million could have gone to should be charged on the ECG itself. So, and ECG is not contesting that. That is not what they are contesting as a company.
Yes,
they have not. I'm coming. I'm just making a point.
PURC established that should have been done.
No, I'm coming. So I'm just trying to make a point.
They don't want it to affect their
I'm just trying to make a point. I'm developing a point. So they are not contesting that. What PURC is thinking, which of course is at variance with the law, is that look, already this is a company that is in a precarious situation because of finances. If we are supposed to charge you 5.8 and you're supposed to pay, you're going to pay from your revenues anyway. The same revenues are the ones we are insisting that you should make it and ensure that you pay the people on the value chain, such that they can produce power so that the consumer gets it. And that's why the angle of consumer in terms of justice and what we're talking about the consumer. Yeah. So that is the logic behind their thing. Unfortunately, the logic does not find space in the law as it stands now. So I can understand that. But see, it is important to put it on record that look, ECG, all the things we were saying had been proven right. One, we had indicated that from August up till February, all the revenues that ECG collected, they never put it in the cash waterfall mechanism. Thank you. It has been established. Two, it has been established that ECG looked into the eyes of Ghanaians and lied through a press statement.
Where is the lie?
The lie is that, you remember, when they were having the load shedding, ECG issued a statement saying that the reason for the outages in the country between 7 and 11 was as a result of the fact that they were replacing 630 of their transformers. Yeah. It is on the strength of that the PURC then asked them that, look, one, give us the GPS locations of these ones. Two, give us the ratings of those, those plants. And the reason why they give those things is that if you give me the ratings, I'll be able to know whether your thing is overloaded or not. Now, from their findings, only 89 went beyond 100. Yes. Only 89. If you put it, about 626 of their transformers were between, even somewhere even less than 70 and 100. So ECG lied to the public under the signature of the managing director. That alone is, in my opinion, gives a reason why that man should not be in the office today. Two, if you know by the IMF conditionalities that they've given to us, you know, because they had identified the energy sector as one of the greatest threats to our economy in terms of the level of indebtedness, had indicated that, look, have a single account, say that any time you give out the monies, you take the revenues, we can follow where the account in which these monies are put in. The president subsequently gives an order that run a single account. Now, when PwC was contracted to audit the cash waterfall mechanism and the activities of the ECG, one of the things they did was that they refused to make their bank accounts available to the auditor. And it was one of the concerns that they raised. At that time, we thought that they were running around 37 accounts. Per the documents that have been presented by ECG itself to PURC, they're not only running 37, they're running 61 accounts.
You see?
They are running 61 accounts. That, again, is a clear violation of the directives of the president, the directives that have been given to us by the IMF, and in fact, the whole idea of the cash waterfall mechanism. So on the strength of that, what business does the board still have to be in the position? So I can agree that you may not be able to surcharge them per the laws that we have today, but morally, they should not be occupying that office.
Absolutely.
They should not be occupying that office. And that is why I am indicating very clearly that, look, yes, there's an ultimate executive responsibility on the part of the Minister for Energy and to the President, by virtue of the fact that that is an executive function anyway, isn't it? So it's the President who does the appointment. So I can understand that the ultimate responsibility falls on the President and falls on the Minister for Energy. But let me say that ECG has not told us that there has been a counter directives that have been given to them beyond just what has been made public in terms of what the IMF itself gave and what the President himself gave. So if they have not followed this to the extent, and look, Alfred, do you know the amount of money we're talking about here? Per the PURC system, if you look at their collection losses, their collection rate that they've given, the PURC has said that we have allowed you that you should be able to collect at least 98%. So based on your own posted sales, you should be making around 8-point-something billion. I get the point.
Right.
However, for the purposes of the cash waterfall mechanism, we agree that at least instead of the 8.9 billion, you post 7 billion in the account. The amount ECG posted in the account was 4.9 billion. What is the difference? Where did the money go to? And that is why the last time when I came here, I indicated that one of the things that and you see, cash waterfall mechanism falls, you know that cash waterfall mechanism falls directly under the Vice President. Now the question that you ask yourself is that if this money has not been, where has the money gone? And that was the point I made to you, that what ECG is doing is that instead of using that money to pay the people in the value chain, they are using it for procurement. And you know what procurement does. It is the point, in an election year, it is only that you can have, kickbacks.
Stealing.
Stealing. That is why the ECG is a cash machine for the running of the MPP's campaign. And that is why, and I'm making this point. Look, Masa, do you know that as we speak today, how on earth that I made this example the last time, in my own household, I borrowed to pay my children's school fees. I borrowed to pay their medical bills. I borrowed to buy water. The money comes, and my first option is to paint my house instead of paying my debt, those people who are owed. That is the behavior of ECG. The government is not holding them to account. The minister himself is not holding them to account. And the reason why they are not doing it is because part of that money is being used for procurement, and that is where the kickbacks come in. It is corruption.
That's it.
Well, Marco, so there are fundamental questions that have to be answered, as has been raised by Bauer. Maybe the legal route that PURC used is where the question is as to whether it can clothe itself with the powers of sanctioning the board of ECG. But does that take away the fundamental concerns that have been raised about the administration of the power sector, which has led to some of these issues that we are all experiencing as consumers? I'm sure yourself, you've been sleeping in darkness. Oh?
Well, thank you very much. The first thing I want to say is that, indeed, PURC overstretched its mandate in going after the board members in this state. In this instance, when it hadn't given them notice, when we say you give someone notice, is to say that I am going to make a determination of what you tell me. So come and tell me the reason why I shouldn't take this decision against you personally. In what happened, I think there was an administrative request for some information that was given them, and then based on that, they gave these sanctions against the board members. And if you look at Regulation 45, clearly, it says sanctions against the public utility, and the words there, none of them refers to the board members. It doesn't take away the fact that the board members are the, if you like, the ones that direct the utility or a company. If you're looking at company, it doesn't take away from that fact. But the mere fact that the two pillars on which justice runs, Nemo Iudex in Kosaswa, or the Alterem Patem, the fact that they didn't give them that notice, it doesn't create fairness. All right?
But that's for ECG to establish, is it not?
No. It is established that they did not give them that hearing. You didn't give him hearing because you didn't give him notice that you are coming against him personally. You see, the board members have their functions. And so for you to come at them, you should show that they've breached their core functions. Okay? And to do that, you must give them notice, which you have failed to do so. What I draw from my brother Martin's what he gave out is that we all want regulatory bodies to work, to function properly, okay? But if we adopt the position, especially what my brother is adopting, now going into conspiracy theories and ending on the decks of the vice president because he's the flag bearer of MPP, we lose out on several things that happen, and it results in this. Because now, we become more emotive than complying with procedure. And if you don't comply with procedure, it results in this. At the end of the day, does it solve the problem? And what we are looking for is, my brother said that we want to elevate our standards to that of UK. So what we have to do to elevate our standards to UK is what should concern us. But if you don't do that, and then we are jumping from one end to the other, and we are now saying it is now the cash cow of the flag bearer of MPP, and that's what we're going to use to finance the elections and whatnot, and it is corruption, and that's what he was saying.
Prove me wrong.
And if you, no, I don't need to prove you have to establish it. And I'm saying, I am saying, you see, we could do that and raise our voices, and I'm not sure what the public wants to do.
Hold on.
I'm not sure that's what the public wants to hear. I am saying, if we don't concern ourselves with what the problem is, and so that we elevate the standard of UK or US, and we jump into this conspiracy theory and whatnot, and this corruption, and this was going to use to finance the election of MPP, we will lose track of this. The fact is that there are issues.
So you establish that there are issues?
Of course. I mean, come on.
Okay, great.
Come on. Is someone coming to anywhere to stand and say there are no issues?
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, all right.
People are denying that there's no doom.
No, there's no one that's denying that you can use the word dooms or whatever. The fact is that
PURC said there's no.
You see, these are the things you do, and then we are lost in transition. These are the things you do, and we are lost in transition. Okay, and then
that's why we did. That's why you did, and we booted out these people. That's why you did, and we booted them.
And then instead of elevating the standard, if you booted them out, it was right that we booted them out. So in order for you to see, and you, Martin, I mean, this is the first time I meet you here, but we are friends. We always meet in talk, in court, we talk. We are personal friends beyond even just meeting in court. You see, you are positioning yourself as a third person, be it an umpire or dispassionate person. And I've met you even in East Legon when I used to work with Dominica. That was that's the first time I heard you say that you don't want a particular party, one particular party, to do beyond 2 terms because of your reasons.
Stealing,
now,
corruption.
Now, you are now in a position where you are so vehemently wanting to see the end or the backside of MPP that now you don't even say things which are based on evidence.
Talk about the ECG.
Talk about the ECG. You were supposed to talk about the ECG, and then you spoke about corruption.
No, yes,
is corruption an issue? Corruption is never an issue. So let me learn. You are not even the person handling this program. You are not even that person. Martin, put yourself in that position where you can comment.
Come back to the topic.
No.
Come back to the topic.
Put yourself in that position. My friend, what lies between me and Martin, you have no idea.
Yeah,
please.
I feel yes. But I say
you have established that they are friends.
Please.
So let's
you put yourself in that position
talk about the issue.
where
let's proceed.
You can now make comment on issues which are not actuated by that need to see one party out or one party in. So comment on it as it is. And that's what you've done since I've been here. Now let's continue. So the fact is that PURC definitely, not having done these things, could not have surcharged the board members. It's clear. She could not have surcharged the board members. So any attempt at doing that takes away from the main issues. The main issues, we can sit here and be as technical as Bawa did and lose the public out of it. The bottom line is the public want to see what steps we are taking to solve the problem. We have talked about even engaging third parties to make sure that collection of revenues are in place. If Bawa and his people are going to say that, then let's probably look at the process of engaging that third party and make sure things are done properly. That's a discussion we can have. But to all this jumping from here to here, it doesn't solve any problem. It doesn't solve any problem at all.
I see. But then again, if it's about jumping from here and there, you establish that there are fundamental issues that have to be addressed. How should those issues be addressed? When already we've established that PURC's attempt to use the legal route, they may have, in fact, they have actually overstepped their boundaries.
So even in that, it's just a procedural impropriety, which can be cured. It's just, you see, it still remains, this order still remains an order of the commission. ECG can say they will not comply with it, all right? One of them will have to go to court because only the court we can apply for judicial review of it, because you see it makes the II says a commission has determined, so it's a determination. Article 23 says that it must be done, a public official must do so in fairness, all right? And of course they have established that it wasn't fair because they didn't give them notice. Okay, so if this order persists, and I don't think it shouldn't just be here and then it becomes a tug of war. And the only good thing that is established is that the government does not control the regulatory board, the PURC. Just like my friends on the other side who want us to know that it's being part of the narrative of NDC that the government is controlling the PURC and whatnot. Now we've established that. On
this platform,
yes. Now we've established that. Now then it results in that tug of war, and it doesn't solve the problem. So PURC must go back and cure the defect, okay, and then engage ECG, and then there will be a resolution of this. That's how I see it.
See, going back to engage, but you're on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. This matter will still come back to you.
No, PURC first. So PURC should do its job, exactly. And it's not the end of this. It's not about withdrawing this order, curing it, giving them the fair hearing, and then do the needful. That's about it.
You see, for me, the bigger issue to address, and that's the point I mean, you see, the first segment of this discussion, we had spoken about the fact that, and that was when Kojopoko was here, that the current power subsector challenges is as a result of finance. And that was what we all spoke about here.
Kojopoko did not deny that.
No, he can't deny that.
Precisely.
Yeah, he can't deny that.
Precisely, yes.
Now, and the issue was because one of the reasons why we are not being able to give money to the players within the value chain to at least meet their operational cost was because the cash waterfall mechanism was not working. Because we want to resolve the issue, isn't it? The cash waterfall mechanism is not working. You have a group of people who are running the company that takes care of the cash waterfall mechanism. And the report, based on just what ECG is, remember that these determinations were based on PURC gleaning through the documents that they asked for. You remember they gave deadlines and they asked for. So that's what they gleaned through. And they were able to establish that, for example, if we take the category B, which is made up of the state-owned agencies, that from August till now, they have not been paid. From August till February, they have not been paid. It was only in March that they put about some amount of money, about 400 and something million, into the account. So it has been established. So if we are supposed to resolve this issue, we first have to deal with the indiscipline within what they call it, ECG. Because I use the word indiscipline because all of you have agreed that in the first place you don't even meet the payment. When they invoice you, you are unable to pay all the monies. But they are saying that, look, even if you cannot pay all, the money that you get, put it in the place and then distribute it based on a predetermined formula. And in this case, they have a category A and category B. The category A made up of the IPPs, and the category B made up of what they call it, the state-owned agencies. And I remember that is always the crumbs that are left after they have paid the 6 IPPs. So the crumbs that are left that they give to the category B people. However, Ministry of Finance is supposed to augment that money with some payment. Indeed, the audit suggested that they were supposed to put about 200 million in addition to what was left for the category B. Ministry of Finance has not done it. That is a problem. And so until we get this, and I have indicated that until we have a situation where we can resolve that, and that is what, for me, is the question. It's not about the technicalities, and that's what I said. It's not about the technicalities, who is supposed to be set charge, who is not supposed to be set charge. In any case, that money, do you know where the money was going to go to? It was going to go into the fuel account. And the fuel account is still going to be used in procuring fuel to generate power for consumers. So it was not like the fine was coming to PURC. PURC said, look, we'll fine you individually, we'll take the money and buy fuel and generate power for the country because of the fact that you, as a body that gives policy directives, I mean, it cannot be said that the board was not aware, for example, that they were not putting the cash waterfall, the money inside the, what do you call it, the cash waterfall mechanism. It can be said that as a board, you would not know that after they gave a directive, the president who appointed you, remember that the board is appointed by the president. The president who appointed you says that run a single account, and consistently you have the chief, the MD, come to report to you, because that's the very reason why the MD is part of the board, come to report to you and indicate that he's running 61 accounts, and you are quiet. And you are quiet. I don't know what I'm making sense.
This 61 accounts is contrary to the directive from the president.
And this is captured in the IMF document, and it's captured by the directive given by the president.
I'm still listening to you, and I'm looking for the point where you say that they have committed fraud for which there must be such a
you don't get the point I'm making.
No, I'm personal point you're making. That's what I'm quiet.
But listen to what I said.
Till you go to the board members personally, they must have committed some fraud.
Lawyer, I had indicated to you that as we speak now, the law, as per what you guys, and you are technical in that.
I'm talking
about the law.
Very well.
Yes. Me, I'm just talking energy.
Okay.
You are talking law.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that the logic behind is PURC's determination and then final decision does not sit well within the provisions of the law. That I agree. But I'm saying that that should not let us lose sight of the findings of PURC.
Yes, so the other findings.
Yes, the other findings, because that is key. Because if we resolve that issue, this fine is not an issue. What we should be resolving is how is ECG being accountable to the consumer in terms of, for example, giving us the mandatory period of 3 days to know that I'm going to go off. How is ECG accountable in trying to run a single account so that we can, because usually the cash waterfall mechanism has a committee that runs it, and that committee is housed in ECG. The committee can only trace the revenues when they know where the accounts are. But if you are running 61 accounts, which account am I going to look to see that this is happening? And besides that, the audit that was done by PwC indicated, because in the formula, ECG itself has a tick. You see, if you look at the formula, ECG itself has a stake of 20.17%. So if the state agencies are supposed to be sharing after they have paid the category A, the category B people, ECG is part of that arrangement, and they are supposed to take what is then left. They are supposed to take 20.17% of the amount of money. PURC's audit had indicated that ECG had spent way above that particular allocation given to them. I don't know what I'm making sense.
Oh, perfect.
So
Perfect.
these are all issues that are maladministration.
For which the board should answer for?
For which the board and yes should answer for.
So why would PURC not now constitute a tribunal so that it is determined and say that by looking at
law.
papers?
And I don't want to be trapped in your law.
Yeah,
why would not be trapped in that law? Because before you convict someone,
you can make moral arguments. And law always takes from morality.
Precisely.
I don't want to be trapped in your law.
But still, the right thing must be done. And so your morality must also include that they must be allowed to answer. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that, the things you are saying, I'm not saying whether they exist or they don't exist. I'm saying that whatever your issues are, they must be allowed.
Let me ask you a question. If you are the owner of a company,
yes,
and your company is running into problems with its other partners, in terms of how they should be able to pay their bills, then you give directives to your company that, look, anytime revenues come, make priority for the payment of bills. Then after 3 months, I'm just giving after 3 months, you come to realize that the board that you have put in place as the owner, and then the management that is there, abiding by your decision, they may not have committed any crime. By virtue of the fact that they may not have committed any crime, but the moral is fire.
I'll have to give them a hearing first. That's all the point I'm making.
So you see,
I must give them a hearing first. So without giving them a hearing, I can't say I have discovered certain things.
Ends this way. This is how the moral argument ends. Based upon their dereliction, even in the absence of a law to convict them, they ought to go quickly. You see, and you see what Kelly did. You see how Kelly Gajeku did. You see, he left quickly.
Kelly didn't tell you that he's left because of any bribery.
Obviously, look at it.
What is that?
He said for personal
reasons. We cannot make these conjectures. But if there is actual hearing on this, then you are home and dry with it. Which no one is describing you. But make that available to them. So that by you are sitting here and saying that even the MD must go. That's not hearing.
Look, let me say.
Okay.
Let me finish. Let me make a point. See, even as a board, and that's why when Kelly went and people said, oh, he's gone, and I said he should have gone years back. And I'll tell you why he should have gone years back. Just even take, he's been a board chairman from 2017.
No, it wasn't 18
No, as a board chairman, 2017.
No, I think
Ocansey just did a year and left. So 2018 up till now. You under your stewardship, I will not even use from 2018. I'll just use 2020 till now. From 2020, the company's losses have been increasing from 26 up to 32 now. Each percentage constitutes about 54.74% million. That's how much it costs the company. If, as a board chairman, for 4 years, the company's losses are increasing, you have no business sitting there. You have no business as a board sitting there.
And who was supposed to be even asking questions so as to even take this action?
Yes, so that's the point. You see, so again, this then comes, that's why I said there's an executive responsibility on this. That I expected that the president would have stepped in and said, look, based on all these factors that we have, we are realizing that the company is getting worse and worse. So on the strength of this, I think that I need to change the board.
And that wasn't done?
That wasn't done. So Kelly should have gone long ago. So for him to have gone now was even late in the day, but it's still a better late than never. But I think that the other board members have no moral right. Their positions as board members is no longer tenable. That is the argument I'm making. Based on the findings of PURC, their positions are no longer tenable. And I expect that if by Monday, they should be able to say, yes, we know that the law does not say you should charge me. You can charge the utility. However, on the basis of principle, I have failed the state. I'm going off.
You expect the board members
Why can't
to
you do that? Why can't you? What is it that they are getting there that they don't want to go?
You expect the board members
to resign? To me, argument is flawed.
I see, but well...
To me, argument is flawed because you cannot replicate what happens in one company, private sector, to
this... So government's own can vote. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? No.
Why don't you want me to land? Why don't you want me to land? We have a unique public utility where there are legacy debts and whatnot. So for you to say that just the changing of the board solves the problem, I think it's flawed.
Anyway.
No, but you have not been able to identify where the flaw is. You don't just make a statement that, oh, it's flawed without providing evidence. Where is the flaw in my argument? What is the flaw?
That's the point I just made. That by changing a board, you solve the problem of the utility.
They give policy directives.
No, but by changing,
they give policy directives.
By changing it,
they give policy directives.
By changing it, that is not solve the entire problem of ECG.
You said the entire, but you solve what?
Okay. So you're admitting it. So you're admitting it.
Thank you.
If look, we do not become dispassionate about this ECG, so that we take it bit by bit, we will resolve in this matter when someone riding on emotions are not going to say charge.
Quote me anywhere that if you look at, because I don't want to believe that the monies that are not put in the cash waterfall mechanism are just seated in an account for investment. They have been spent. And if it is not for the payment of your, what you call your reckoning, and that will be part of your payment of your bills based on what they have invoiced you, you are using it for procurement. And I see, you know, they talked about some 600 and something, what do you call it?
Overloaded.
Yes, how do you call them again? Transformers. Why? Did they give it to them free of charge? You are replacing transformers that do not have problems. So, as per the, what do you call it?
But you just sat here and said, at least, per your analysis, you said at least 89 of them.
Yes, but 626 of them are functioning well.
Why are you saying that?
What basis are you buying 630?
No,
that's procurement. You see, you know the point I'm making. You see, procurement.
You see,
and all of us know that in this country,
for political purposes,
the one animal that
calm down and look at the facts and the figures, and then we can come to a proper position so that
whether it is contracts, whether it is services,
it doesn't help anyone in this discussion.
Even the Public Utilities Workers Union indicated that ECG runs about over 33,000 transformers. 630 cannot be the reason why we are where we are at this point. But Amatibebo, the last word on this matter, because you see, could the PURC have achieved this same objective without necessarily having to go on this path so as to then fall or raise fundamental questions about the law? Because they didn't surcharge ECG as an institution because they said that they don't want the fine to impact on the revenues of ECG. That's why they went beyond the institution to now hold the individual board members responsible. But the intent and objective of this particular decision, could that have been achieved without going through this other path that has led to these legal issues being raised?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Which other means?
So the easiest was just going by the law, stay by the black letter of the law, would have been to put the fine on the ECG itself. Just put it on the ECG.
But then that comes back to the concern they raised, that if they surcharge ECG, it would impact on the resources of the company, because
ECG
Muhammad is not going to pay from his pocket. It's the ECG that's going to have to pay.
Yes, but so that's when they should have known that if they intended to target the board members, then from day one, the processes should have been drawn out in such a way that you separate the board members from the ECG, the institution itself. So you say, like Kingsley, I said earlier, Kingsley is repeated, serve them personally, in their personal capacity. It's not difficult, but like you see what Honorable Abambiri said, look at the order. Yeah, but okay, the Bauer is the final training.
We went to the same school.
So
really? Yeah, so he knows that. I
don't know that.
So the thing is that the other findings, and like he said, the cash water mechanism is mentioned, and it's a serious matter, Kingsley. Like you said,
I'm not retracting that from
at all. The rest of the money, where the money goes, because even in the Constitution, we've been struggling to do a single treasury account for decades. You see? And we try to implement it. We take 2 steps forward, then 5 backwards. You see the Fiscal Responsibility Act. They say, yes, we're going to do a single treasury account. Then, single treasury account. Then well dodged. Because politicians always need avenues to steal. So this point is something we shouldn't lose focus over. So I think that, listen, PURC has done a good job. They should just amend the report to take out the issue of the personal liability, so that the rest of the report can stand. Because you know sometimes when you enter court, if you are not careful, you give opportunity for other issues to be raised, and then before you discover, the whole report is gone. So I think
that's what I say. You should come to court.
No, we don't want this, because look, PURC, you've done a good job. all right, in terms of standing tall, when, you know, Akufo-Addo is somebody who is intimidated public officers from the one.
You started again.
But we went to court, the Domlevo case, he was handed out of office.
So stay with PURC and deal with them. Martin.
Political context is important because Akufo-Addo has that track record, hounding people out of office.
We never saw problem because of this.
We went to court.
You are saying PURC should withdraw better it. Then continue from there.
So, but it's good to put the context.
That context, Domlevo is a different thing.
Oh, no. It's related.
Auditor General's report.
It's related that he's hounding people out of office.
Let me just say this. That let Martin Kpebu proceed.
Yes, exactly.
And end on his point. Coming in only makes this conversation destructive.
Very good.
Please stay on the
So I was saying that we should laud PRC for having that courage to do this exercise, especially in a context where President Akufo-Addo is given to intimidating public officers, okay, putting people before court when there's no case, apart from the CDD case we took to the Supreme Court. Look at ACP Agbojo. What did he do? His Attorney General stood and told me that, listen, there's no case against Agbojo. They've just added him.
You
added him.
But I've been meeting
you
spoke at the bar.
Yes.
Why are you here?
But I've been saying
it. Staying at the bar. It's improper.
No, Martin, it is improper.
Our profession, it is improper. You speak at the bar. If I speak at the bar with you, at any point in time, you can. You speak at the bar.
Listen, so you have other cases. I'm sure we could mention, we could go on and on and on. So in a culture of intimidating public officers, right from the presidency, where you have PURC standing that tall, we will stand with PURC. And so ask that this small part of the fine, since there is a risk that if they don't amend it, they don't deal with it, the case may end up in court and then things can snowball into other parts of the report. Then it's safe that they just do an amendment of that part of the report and reissue it. This is, then we all move on, because it will not take that much away from the PURC. I mean, they've won our hearts. Won our hearts. Kingsley, your people are today.
I don't know whether
my last sentence.
Whether you observe something on the you observe something in the report.
If you talk, I will talk.
No. You know what I'm saying?
My last sentence.
I was just going to say that. Do you see how those who signed the document? You know, it's very unusual. Usually, the chief executive would have signed this and sent it out. But just to ensure that the whole group of commissioners were in sync with the decisions that they took, each one of them signed. Look at PURC's orders that they give out and then the fines that they give out. Usually it's the executive secretary who signs it. But in this particular one, just to be able to make the point that they all agree with the fact that ECG has a problem. They all signed.
Okay, so Mr. Ocansey, my last sentence.
It's not material.
One person says
my last sentence. Just one sentence. So my last sentence is that this topic has brought back the issue of the inflation of the Ameri deal by 800 million. President Akufo-Addo, we are still holding you responsible. 800 million. That was what we were going to do to us.
Okay.
Yes. For NDC. 800 million. Akufo-Addo. You see, big talk. When you're in a position, I will root out corruption. You came and sat and you were increasing the contract by $800 million. Okay. Multiply by CDs. This is the kind of presidency you've pretended over. You see your end.
Fred Convener from says Pokwasi says your panel today on energy is superb. I am taking notes from, I think you mentioned Bembuachi, Kojopoku, Honorable Bauer, and lawyer Martin Kpebu. This was in reference to the earlier conversation. Yes, okay. That preceded you. Good morning, Alfred. This is from Theophilus. Please, for the benefit of education, I would like to find out if your panel can answer this. How possible and how feasible is it for ECG, being a distributor of power to consumers, invest in solar to complement the national grid they get from GridCo, so that anytime there are challenges, they can support the distribution with the solar power generation, which will then avoid load shedding exercises, you say. With regards to the Ameri plant relocation, correct me if I'm wrong, it used to be in Tema and it was relocated to Takoradi and now moved to again to Kumasi.
No, it was. Yes, it is what he's talking about is the car power. Car power The first phase was in Tama.
Yes.
When we did the second phase, they just took the first one to Takoradi and then did it in Takoradi. Yes.
Thank you for that. This one here says, good morning. Very shocked to hear Kojopoku saying there's massive improvement in outages. Since we entered April, not a single day had passed without lights going off in Sekendi, Takoradi and its environs. Stephen N.S. Bua, thank you. This one here also says, currently the lights... Okay, good morning, Alfred. In fact, you can see the deceptive and at the same time elusive posture of MPP. What Kojo is saying is, you say, insulting and disregarding or downgrading to Ghanaians. Currently, the lights just went off in Wa and also in part of Salaga, you say. This one also here says that it is good that the admission has been made that there's something going on that has to be addressed. Lawyer Amwakwa, there's a message. He said, accepting that there are issues only gives us reason to believe that those issues must be addressed regardless of the legalities. Says, good morning to Lawyer Amwakwa. This one here says that, Alfred, on the matter of handing over of certain government establishment to private hands, as suggested by Otunfo, especially the energy sector, I don't think that must entirely be the case because a Konsombo Dam linked to VRA is the heart of the country. And Papa Bisu sent this one. Thank you very much. Stephen Peng from Wa also indicates that the lights just went off in Wa as well. Yes.
I have relations there. They are always suffering. I'm a Saman. It's terrible.
So
terrible.
There are quite a number of people who are sending us messages that, so Koforidia is, part of Koforidia is off. Suhum Nkoko, Prince Henry Koforidia also sending us this one. And we have about almost 1,000 messages. Thank you very much for the messages. I'll be back shortly after this quick break. We're getting into another issue that borders on state funds, public sector corruption, and how to address it. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Causing financial loss to the state. We'll be back shortly.
Hi, baby.
Hi, Mom.
Hope you're having fun at Granny's.
Yeah, but Grandma doesn't have my favorite top chocolate spread. Hi, Mom. Mommy, please, I missed top chocolate spread on bread.
Tasty too, made just for you and me. Choco, it's chocolate choco, it's chocolate choco, it's chocolate choco. Choco, it's chocolate.
Surprise children!
Yay! It's chocolate choco.
Taste of chocolate.
This advert is FDA approved.
It's me you are looking for. I can see it in your smile.
Ablaga.
Really?
Yo.
I won't tell my girlfriend, you know the sing alone. Me, I dey watch the baby too.
She's loving.
She's what?
Lover.
Everything about her.
Preman kakra, ejaman kakra, yosom kakra.
She mess up my mind.
How much a guy need to take you on a date?
See, me I dey feel you feel that vibe. But the money you dey call, I be street. I no get that money. My money be 500 Ghana.
Date Rush shows every Sunday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it. Date Rush is sponsored by Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Coil and Napa Foods.
Feel Moisturizer.
Obuasi Bitters.
Close-Up Complete Fresh Protection. Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soap.
Deluxy Acrylic Paint.
Adonko.
Remy Spices.
Stop Cough from Ernest Chemist.
Dano Milk.
Kiss Panache and Kiss Drinks.
We don't want us to be sorry.
5 young and ambitious ladies try to navigate the chaotic and unpredictable streets of Lagos.
Wale or Jennifer?
Marion.
Marion. You should let me take you out sometime. Maybe a trip somewhere.
How is it that I have a full-time job,
That's yourself, not say place of business. My dad still sends me money every single month.
You stay away from anyone with dreadlocks.
And yet my bank account is empty. How? Girl, that's Lagos for you. You met the drama queen, Lola.
Oh, that bastard is going to regret ever dumping me. You know you have more than enough time to figure all this out.
That's easy for you to say, Susie. You have a man.
I don't think you can handle the truth.
I advise you, just tie him up and spank him like a naughty boy. All men must pay. Always.
What's happened to Tunde? Did you break up with him? We're in an open relationship.
I don't think you guys understand.
I want to be married this year.
Watch them figure out love, life, friendships, and finances in this thrilling and fabulous series titled Money, Men, Marriage. Watch how their lives unfold on TV3. Money, Men, Marriage. Premiering Monday, 22nd April at 9 p.m. only on TV3.
Love has got its own set of rules. But love can be a twisted tale of joy, deception, betrayal, and unexpected alliances. On April 20th, 2024 at 8 p.m., join us for the grand unveiling of Perfect Match Extra Season 2. Don't miss out on the thrill as we welcome and unveil our new set of housemates for this season. Intriguing housemates will step into the spotlight, ready to embark on a 10-week journey of love and connection. Studio audience should be seated by 6 p.m. Perfect Match Extra. Love, betrayal, heartbreak, and triumph.
Perfect Match Extra on TV3 and pmextra.tv.
Sponsored by
Close Up for your important oral care needs. Geisha Moringa and Geisha Black Soup for your soft and glowing skin.
Flora Tissue. Top Choco. Bell Ice.
Encouraging global diversity insights, tolerance, and cooperation among individuals and communities with diverse backgrounds.
A tapestry of cultures, each with its own worth, recognizing, accepting, respecting, and valuing global diversity.
I want this to be our chief. Nana Pampers. Nana Pampers.
This week on Talented Kids, the performances aim to celebrate and showcase the richness of cultures, traditions, and perspectives from across the globe. It's an eviction week, so ensure your favorite contestant stays in the competition by dialing *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app to vote. Talented Kids, free to play.
Talented Kids shows on TV3 Sunday at 4 p.m.
Powered by Indomie. Sponsored by Coco Plus.
Deluxy Acrylic Paint.
Frutelli Calipo.
Vitamilk.
Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. CTIW Foundation. CTIW Foundation.
And supported by
You've started the process, and with this judgment, that's going to speed up the process. And you know, Ghana, we have various laws. You can choose to stay away. But so far as you have laws relating to how you can extradite from one country to Ghana, okay, there's a judgment against like this one, rest assured that should be brought down and face justice. When it comes to extradition, sometimes you start and you have some kind of problems, blocks. The person may choose to appeal and all manner of things, but this is a situation where we have final judgment. It's not as if you are being brought here to be tried, or you can raise all the defense out there that maybe they are going to persecute or whatever, but it's a judgment. And so that's why I said you hold on. Very soon to be brought down to Ghana to face justice. This one is a form of advice and caution to all public office holders that when it comes to money matters, you must be very, very careful. You may want to say you receive only 20,000 Ghana cedis as a gift. Were you supposed to receive that money? What was that money meant for?
Well, so that's Alfred Ocansey. Gentlemen, that's Alfred Ocansey, who's the Deputy Attorney General there. after the ruling of the courts, former Chief Executive Officer of the Microfinance and Small Loan Center, Sedina Tamaklo Ationu, sentenced to 10 years in prison with hard labor. Also, the former Chief Operations Officer, Maslock Daniel Axim, also handed a 5-year jail term with hard labor. The two were found guilty on 78 counts relating to causing financial loss to the state, theft, conspiracy to steal, money laundering, and contravening public procurement laws. Trial began in 2019, saw 6 witnesses called by the state. Sedina Tamaklo was tried in absentia as she, according to the court documents, absconded and after obtaining court permission for a medical checkup abroad. Daniel Axim testified in person, did not present any witnesses. The convictions stem from misappropriation, and we'll put some of the brief facts of this case on the screen right now. Misappropriation of funds allocated to Maslock activities between 2013 and 2016. In fact, in one instance, the convicts withdrew 500,000 as a loan from Obatampa Savings and Loans Company, demanding a refund when the institution refused to provide a 24% interest rate. Although evidence of the refund was presented, it was not reflected in the Maslock account. The two also found guilty of misappropriating over 1.7 million cedis allocated for a sensitization exercise, with only a fraction of that funds used for the intended purpose. Similar funds disbursed for victims of a fire incident at Kantamanto were also not fully distributed, with a significant portion misappropriated by these accused persons. So, in fact, that's what we have now. And Amakwa, you have the full judgment, and this causing financial loss to the state, and how this case has traveled from 2019 till this moment when this judgment was delivered. In ensuring that this 10-year jail term is applied, what processes would be employed, especially because Sedina, for instance, was tried in absentia?
Thank you again. I need to lay the foundation about this trial in absentia. I've seen on some platforms that someone from my brother's party, and I don't think that would be the position of the party itself, that because he was tried in absentia is a miscarriage of justice and they didn't give her the opportunity. I think Article 19(3) of the Constitution takes care of that. And it says that, if I may just glance quickly through it, it says that a trial of a person charged with a criminal offense shall take place in his presence unless he refuses to appear before the court for trial to be conducted in his presence after he has been duly notified of the trial, or he conducts himself in such a manner as to render the continuation of the proceedings in his presence impracticable, and the court orders him to be removed for the trial to proceed in his absence. So this is the foundation, constitutional foundation, of course, in the criminal procedure. There are provisions there. And if you look at page 38 of the judgment, and I do my heart out to Leadership Justice Efiasewa J.A. I think she's a very thorough person, and you can see that in her judgment. She recounts all these instances where she had come to be granted her passport, so she goes for a medical checkup, and she gave her time when she will come back, and the case has dragged until now. So I think those are covered. And I want to sound a caution that when we don't understand judicial proceedings and we put political spins on it, it doesn't help the discussion. Okay, so back to the issue of what should happen. I think there are issues of extradition. In fact, the leadership talked about that the executive has not taken any step to make sure she comes and accounts for that. And then the deputy AG said that they are taking steps to do that. And I think that is proper, so that, one, you see, the conviction is that of a high court decision. If she wants to challenge it, she has a way of appealing it within 3 months of the rendering of the judgment, and even 3 months after that, she can bring an application to say that for this and that reason, the time should be extended for her to appeal and all that. She can travel all the way to the Supreme Court. So she shall avail herself of that if she thinks she is not guilty, including the second accused person. Must avail themselves of that. If they don't do that within the next 6 months, then the door seems to have closed on them in respect of appealing. Sentence, it is very easy to think that we can just speak to Interpol and the other, I think she's in the United States, and speak to authorities in the United States, and then they'll bring, no, we have to go through a process. There's a process for extradition, which is also another legal process. And then I have done one where someone was extradited from here to the US, for instance. And if you go through court, you go to the High Court, you raise human rights issues and whatnot. And then the idea is that if the person going to the other country will not face justice, then the person could not be, the person should be stopped from taking to the other party, the other country. For instance, in UK, I did one where the person was seeking asylum. And then the idea was, and the asylum was denied. The idea was that for the person to be taken back to that country, or one of those war-torn countries, when he gets there, he'll be executed. And so those are issues you'd raise. And so yes, the Attorney General knows what to do. They'll go through that.
But could this process have started while the trial was ongoing? Because that's one of the issues the judge raised, that why didn't the state start this process of extradition until this moment that, or that moment that the judgment was delivered?
The Attorney General's Department may have reasons for that. And what I want to establish is that it is not lost. It's not a lost cause that because she didn't take part. Remember, it is her, she has the inherent duty to make sure that she's come to prove that she's not guilty. Okay? And so, absconding, so to say, and the judge was particular about the absconding, so to say, doesn't mean that the process cannot continue. It is that she has lost the chance to come and stand in the box to prove or to make sure that one element of, say, stealing or about 80 charges, 80 counts, one of them, some of the elements are not present, and therefore she should not be found guilty on those counts. It is for her to come and do the same, all right? But at that moment in time, it is the prosecution's duty to ensure that they establish the crime, the ingredients of the crime, which they have done successfully in the view of the court. And at this moment in time, we can all say that they've established that successfully. It is for her rather to come and disprove and to make sure that her position is canvassed so that she is found not guilty. It is not the other way around. So it's not to say that without her being there, they couldn't have done their job. Without her being there, if they couldn't find some evidence without her involvement, then that would have handicapped the prosecution of the matter. But where it has started, if you read it, she had been part of the proceedings, CMC level. He had gone through, I think, 1.5 years before she came up with the medical issue. Then the court can proceed. The prosecution in India would have had all they needed to prosecute the matter. So remember, there's conviction, there's sentencing, then there's serving the sentence. So the two has occurred, conviction, sentencing. It is in serving the sentence that the AG is now saying that he's taking steps to ensure that she comes to serve it. Otherwise, each time, any moment in time when she arrives in Ghana, it starts from there, because then she wouldn't have served. So if she takes 20 years and she comes, at the moment when she ends up at any other port in Ghana, then it will start from there.
It's about the money involved as well. Apart from jailing her, processes to retrieve the money as well in the interest of the state. Yes.
Remember they said, in fact, the judgment says it takes account of her properties. All right. So it's for the AG to bring, it's all a process in court where you have to come and attach and then realize and all that. And it's very easy to think that it just happened like that. There's a process. She has lawyers, they will come and do what they have to do before it is realized. And then the fact that it is realized doesn't mean that it is converted into a liquid state where the money is coming to. It may be a property that needs to be sold, and then you sell it. It can remain on the market for a while. You may even have to beat the price down. So there's a whole process that this involved.
See, people earlier when we spoke, you mentioned that even the prison conditions in this country can be one of the issues that her lawyers could raise or against this extradition of she coming back into the country.
Yes.
Our prison conditions.
Yes.
If she's able to prove that the prison conditions are inhuman, then it could impact on the extradition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me tell you a bit more about that case. We did a case, so I won't mention the name of the accused here. Professor Tifa, it was Professor Tifa's case, and then he took me on board, you know, so I had to render a bit of assistance. We went to Ankafo to look at the prison conditions in Sawam, etc. Then Atifa did this report. He had to go to the UK, was in the House of Lords of which court, to testify, right? At the end of the day, the prison conditions didn't meet the standards of the UK authorities. So the guy won. He wasn't extradited. Yeah. Our prison conditions are terrible. They are terrible, and I'm surprised politicians, left, right, center, they don't do much to improve the situation, and yet they are the people who are so good at
so the prison conditions can be a potent argument against this extradition.
Absolutely. Look, at the UN level, they've discussed. There are several reports that go against us in respect of our prison conditions, overcrowding, etc. So there's Justice Hometou. Yeah, when he was High Court judge in Sawam, he would use the UN reports and, as part of the mitigation, reduce the sentences, because that is law. You can't subject people to so much inhuman condition that, yes, the fact that they've committed crime doesn't mean that apart from serving the term, you should subject them to inhuman conditions. Article 15 of our Constitution is against that. Yeah, we tried something in the Supreme Court, but eventually the Supreme Court said no, they will not take the matter. We should go and go to the High Court. But it's terrible. It's extremely terrible. And maybe before your next question comes...
and I want to conclude, Lawyer Marco. This was just a quick conversation. The Deputy Attorney General says this particular case should serve as a lesson to politicians and government workers. I mean, you are not. Are you a government worker?
No, I'm not. I'm just a law lecturer and private legal practitioner.
But it's certainly a reference point for some lessons.
He's waiting for in case Baumia comes.
Anyway,
but he didn't get a chance.
They're doing my job for me. Thank you very much. If you feel like I qualify for that, I believe I do. Thank you very much.
So get to that point.
You wish. 2025. 2025. You wish. Now, you see, when we went to first year, then we all had to come and give oath that will comply with the school's regulations. And it will end by insta to populari, is that also? In this whole persons, all of us gathered, we are doing so in our own personal capacity. And I think that's what that should guide everyone. And today is on the left foot. The next day may be on the right foot. And so everyone should be guided by this. And so what he said is proper, is germane, that this is advice to any official of the state. Because you see, we have one Ghana, we keep on saying, we cannot mess it up and then hope that, and if any court anywhere is going to use the conditions of our prisons to deprive anyone from being extradited, I don't think it would. They should also look at the context within which Ghana is situated and say that this is the Ghanaian kind of prison. And so you cannot say that you want it, because there are prisons there, that is one in a room with TVs, with their own TVs and whatnot, and all that. I mean, we cannot say that where Ghana has reached now, we should elevate our prison system to that extent. So if you don't meet that, then the person cannot be extradited. So I think it should be looked on case-by-case basis. It is, I mean, even without him saying it, that is a caution to everyone. I think everyone should know that It's statu populari. You go there as a person, as a group, make all the and as my brother is doing in Parliament and whatnot. But it is you, the person. I remember in the same Efiase Wells Court, just Efiase Wells Court, when I think I was a year ago or so, his matter came. That matter, I was in the. We had just finished our case, and they called that, and I sat down. And then someone said he's busy in Parliament and whatnot. Efiase Wells said, in my court, I give him 1 hour. By this time, if he doesn't appear, we will see what will happen. I don't know how the message got to Parliament. As I got down, I felt then it was his third floor, it's not second floor. Financial division 1, got 2, second floor. I chatted for maybe 5 minutes. By the time I got to the foyer of the front of the court, I saw all MPs coming. All the MPs who are lawyers coming from Parliament. And then I was a Canadian for. So he asked, what are you guys going to do? If yes, that is judicial power. That is what we want to see. It is not always the you see, executives are executing. So they are the visible ones. Parliamentarians are always making, and there are a lot of issues happening in Parliament now. But there should be the exercise of judicial power. One is brought to them and make sure the right thing is done. And so I think we should all take note of this and make sure you don't find yourself on that, because it is in statu populari. You go in the best you can do. I remember when Woyomi was in prison, NDC MPs trooped. I have issues with that because I think it is not a sense of solidarity. It's about the state. But they trooped. At the end of the day, they went back, and he was the one left there. You see, so I think we should be careful about
and
this.
And whenever I say that, Martin Bebo, probably you don't blow your trumpet enough, and well, maybe some of us will have to do that. At least with the impact that you've had on our jurisprudence in this country, with you going out of your way to test the law and refine legal procedure. Anybody who sits in any lecture in the law school, your name comes up every now and then. Had it not been for you, maybe the persons who stood surety for Sedina Tamaklo would have probably been in jail by now.
Absolutely.
So I'm talking about Alex Mould, the former GMPC CEO, and then also Gavivina Tamaklo, formerly with the National Theatre. They stood surety for Sedina Tamaklo to be granted this permission to even travel for this medical attention. 5 million cedis bail was what was put on their heads. Prior to lawyer Martin Pebu testing the law in Pebu number 1, these people would have been imprisoned.
Is it extrinsic of bail?
No, that's
not imprisonable.
And lawyer,
that's Pebu number 1
at this point.
Before we go to number 2, number 3, number 4.
This is what would have happened. That these two who should stood surety, because Sedina Tamaklo is said to have absconded, they would have been thrown in jail.
Absolutely, for 6 months. So that used to be part of Section 104 of the Act 30. Yeah, that was part of it. The jail term was 6 months. So when I presented that case to the Supreme Court, they dealt with it in February, and then by December of 2015, the decision came out. December 2015, sometime December 2015, the decision came out. So the Supreme Court struck down that subsection of Section 104. I think it's subsection 6 or so. Yeah, one of them down there. Yes. So Mr. Alex Mould, Mr. Tamaklo would most probably have gone in, because if you can't produce the accused person, then under the law you would have gone in. But where that was wrong, because under Article 19, Clause 11, you can't just turn that into a crime. So you see this in the ECG, the PURC report. Yes, you must specifically create a crime in the law against somebody before you talk about imprisoning the person. But signing a bail bond is not a criminal conduct. There is nowhere that is stated that if you sign a bail bond, or you stand as surety, or I prefer the word guarantor, since guarantor is more popular. More people have taken loans, and so they can easily remember guarantor. So if you guarantee for somebody on a bail bond and the person absconds, there is nowhere that is stated that the person absconding constitutes or your failure to bring the person to stand trial constitutes a crime. That's the main thing. That's the easiest way to understand it. There's nowhere in the books that they've created such a crime that, hey, Mr. Ocansey, if you guarantee for somebody, then he gets a bail and he absconds and you can't produce him, that is a crime. There isn't something like that. So the Supreme Court looked at it and said, oh yes, they would strike down the law. And since then, we've not made amendments. You see, Ghana, that's the problem. There are other ways of dealing with this matter, but it means that right now we have chosen the civil path. Because the bail bond is a contract. When you say bond, a bond is a contract, right? So look into the contract and go by the terms. So under the terms of the contract, if you sign that, you pay 5 million. I understand this Sedina Tamaklo contract is 5 million. So it means that Mr. Alex Mould and Madam Tamaklo, the other Tamaklo, will be facing the law. I even thought that side had been dealt with. Because, you know, at a point, Alex Mould used to attend court and it was in the newspapers. So I thought they had distributed the bond. But it appears it's not been done. So it means that very soon, Mr. Mould. But he should thank his stars because paying 5 million is certainly far less injurious than going to jail. And, you know, yeah, because under the old law, that would have been 6 months.
You
so
see,
it's good.
I've used the old law where I argue this point without you going to the Supreme Court. So that's why, because if you look at Broby's book, it says that it is a contract.
Yes.
So owing doesn't convert into a criminal offense.
Excellent.
And I use that in the guy that was alleged to have signed the energy minister's forged his signature, remember?
Okay.
In I think it was Kofi Boa's signature. And a person, someone stood for bail, and the person absconded. Sorry, the accused absconded. And I used that, and the person just had to pay for that.
Well,
and so it's always been,
so I just
for me,
to say
that's always been the case.
Thanks to you, Lawyer Martin People, at least there's been some improvement in jurisprudence. Thank you.
I thought you would give me an opportunity to have a bite on this.
Yes, you will.
I know I'm not a lawyer.
And talk about the takeaways from this as well, as serving as a caution to all public officers and politicians and government officials for that matter.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's a chilling reminder to President Kufuor and his ministers.
To everyone.
Yes.
Not the
I said, I use the word especially. All of us. I've granted interviews when I said all of us. But right now, they are in the saddle. They have access to our funds.
That is not to say that things are happening before then.
Lawyer.
It is not subject to.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So,
for President
Kufuor,
we will talk.
For President Kufuor, you know, what I'm looking for is that when he leaves office, I'll be making a complaint so that we'll prosecute him for the over 500 million we spent on the fumigation of schools, etc. after COVID, when it wasn't necessary.
Right.
That's the investigation Manasseh did and won this, what do you call it? Is it West Africa Journalist Award sometime last year?
So you take him up on
Oh, yeah, Kufuor. Now we will see. See, just like Donald Trump is before the court, Kufuor will also go before the court.
I'll hold you on to the work.
Over 500 million.
You think based on Manasseh's work,
yeah,
the ingredients are there?
Yes, the assembly said
I
that.
doubt.
The assembly opposed it. They said there was going to be financial laws. They didn't think that fumigation was necessary. Yeah, why would
so making a decision?
Yes.
So I don't want to even get
I don't.
And for Baumia, we will be doing the PDS. We will be doing the role he played in changing the clause from a bank guarantee to an insurance guarantee. Next year.
You will be alive.
The brutal. Next year.
You mean 8 years after today?
No, next year.
8 years after today.
Oh, you stand and see. You Baumia. You go before the court.
You know what we do?
Before the court.
We keep records on this show.
Yes.
As you have said it.
Oh, yes. Oh, that report.
You.
Just like.
You say you will go to court.
Yeah, and that reminds me. You know, CID, we reported this Galamsey matter. We reported Chairman Wuntumi about a year and a half to the CID. Abu Jinapo, Minister for Mines and Energy, says that
Lands and Natural
Resources says that Chairman Wuntumi Bernard Nchibosiako did not have a mining lease. CEO of Minerals Commission Martin Isi says Chairman Wuntumi did not have a mining lease. Yet he entered the Tanon Nimri Forest. Until date, Madam Fosnando Kofi, CID boss, is playing games with the case. Look, Madam Kofi, if you can't do the case, leave. Leave. 1.5 years. When ministers, you see, for Abu Jinapo, an appointee of Kufuor to come out and say, listen, Chairman Wuntumi had no mining lease. For Martin, you see, an appointee to also come out. It should tell you that the thing is indefensible. Yet Madam Ando Kofi CID boss is just playing games with it. Just like the way Mamiti Wad did to us when the case of was reported to them. He called A plus on phone and was not negotiating. None of them are here. None of them are here.
Let me
the non-lawyer will have to. So, first one, I think that, look, for me, the general principle is that if you go against the law should take its own course. And so it was within the right of the Attorney General to have prosecuted this case. My understanding also is that, look, in the course of she demonstrated that she was not well and needed further treatment. The understanding I equally have is that, look, was there, he said that her condition was getting worse. And that's why, and the lawyers tried giving, evidence to suggest that this was her situation. I believe the judge would have placed judgment value on the reports that had come, and on the basis of that, took a decision to make. I'm also told that those issues were actually also debated, appealed on, and it was at the appellate level. So I know the law will take its own course, and hopefully, at the end of the day, she'll be given the justice that she deserves. But my part, the angle that I'm interested in is that, you see, the alacrity with which this case was dealt with, and they went through and they were so committed to it. If you compare that to other issues that have come, that to an extent, we do not even know where we are. I use the first example. The example of Cecilia Dapa. You see that over a period of time, our time was wasted with the OSP for God knows how many months, only to be told that he didn't have jurisdiction to handle that, and the thing had fallen now on the laps of Mamitiwa as a Yoko boss. Nobody knows where this issue has gotten to.
Thank you.
And the state is not interested in that. If you look at the figures that we are looking at with Sedinam as compared to this, if the fundamental thing is to make sure that the monies that are meant for the public good is preserved and other things, this is an area we should be looking to be interested in.
Okay.
The issue of Bisu, what's his name again? Charles Bisu, on the analysis expose on changing of, that Galamsey issue. Nobody knows where the issue is just left, right, nobody knows. Look, there are some of them, and I give you a typical example. The issue of the Australian visa scandal. Not only were the people brought back from Ghana, there was a report by the same government that indicted, the person involved. But you know what has happened? The government has gone beyond that to even reward the person by appointing him as a chief executive of an authority.
Pious.
All right.
Yeah, pious.
All right.
So I am just telling you that, see, I agree. If look, and all of us, just as the judge said, let's all be cautious. When you are given the opportunity to render public service, be very transparent and accountable, and ensure that you work within the limits of the law. But in doing that, because you lawyers, you have been saying that it is a discretionary power that is given to the Attorney General to either prosecute or not to prosecute. Is that what you say? But the Constitution also still talks about the fact that in your decisions, it shouldn't be capricious or other things. You shouldn't be seen to be that, depending on the person's face. That is the basis under which you use in prosecuting.
Edward Bauer is Member of Parliament for the Bongo constituency. He is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. I appreciate you coming. Martin Kwebo is private legal practitioner, and today again I say thank you to you for all your sacrifices in improving the legal jurisdiction we have in this country with your Kwebo number 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you so much for joining us. Lawyer Malfa, appreciate you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. Also, Kojo Poku, also thank you for joining us on Zoom, and also Ben Boache, Executive Director of Africa Center for Energy Policy, also to Lawyer Richmond Roxon. Thank you very much for the messages, and then also about 1,800 of you who sent us messages. Thank you so much for sending us your messages. On behalf of the rest of the team, I want to say thank you very much for joining us here on The Key Point. We are back next week, and this morning I clothed by